Chapter 1. Early in the morning the sky was just beginning to brighten, but the entire Sunfeather City was still in the darkness before dawn. Sunfeather City, Zhao family. Reflexively, the teenager lifted the warm blanket and jumped off the bed. He put on his clothes and washed up. All of his actions were done in one go. At this time, most of the clan's disciples and even some servants were still asleep. The young man was 13 or 14 years old, his body was slightly thin and his face was white and tender. Although he wasn't very handsome, he was very pleasing to look at. Especially his eyes, which were bright and full of spirit, flashing with fighting spirit. If I can hold on for a while longer, I will be able to break through to the second rank of the martial path and make those people from the Zhao family shut up. The young man's name was Zhao Feng. Half a year ago, with his outstanding performance, he entered the Zhao family from the Zhao family of Qingye Town. In the Zhao family of Qingye Town, he was one of the most outstanding youths of his age, and was the first to reach the first rank of the martial path. From then on, he left the realm of ordinary people and stepped into the door of the martial path. At that time, the elders in the town all praised his talent, and said that his future was immeasurable. His family, his parents, all had high hopes for him. But only Zhao Feng knew that he had put in much more effort than his peers to become a genius of Qingye Town. The Zhao family of Qingye Town was one of the branches of the Zhao family, and every 5 years, they would receive 2 recommendations to enter the main clan. Together with Zhao Feng, there was also a girl from the same clan, Zhao Shui, who had reached the first rank of the martial path 2 months later than him. When he left Qingye Town, Zhao Feng was full of fighting spirit, and he was determined to go to the Zhao family and show off his skills. However, when Zhao Feng entered the Zhao family, he realized that he was a frog at the bottom of a well. In terms of scale, the Zhao family of Qingye Town only had a population of 100, and there were only 7 or 8 youths of the same age. On the other hand, the Zhao family was a large clan with tens of thousands of people. They controlled large amounts of land, mines, and other resources. Compared to the Greenleaf Village branch family, they were more than 100 times stronger. In the Greenleaf Village branch family, he was considered an outstanding person, even a genius. But when he arrived at the Zhao clan, he was in existence at the bottom, a lowly outer disciple. Many youths of the same age in the Zhao family had reached the second rank of the martial path, and some of the more talented ones had even reached the third rank. It was rumored that some of the geniuses in the family had a terrifying cultivation of the fourth stage of the martial path. Faced with this reality, Zhao Feng felt as if a bucket of cold water had been poured over him, and he understood how ignorant and insignificant he was. In addition, Zhao Shui, who also came from Greenleaf Town, was a pretty girl. After entering the Zhao family, she gradually drifted away from him and got together with one of the top 3 outer disciples of the family. Back then, when Zhao Shui was in Greenleaf Town, she was full of admiration for Zhao Feng. But at that time, Zhao Feng was completely focused on cultivation, and his mind was muddled, so he didn't respond. Since then, Zhao Feng, who was deeply stimulated, worked even harder to cultivate. He once swore that he would definitely win a place in the Zhao family, and in Sunfeather City. Otherwise, he would never return to Greenleaf Town. After washing up, Zhao Feng took a deep breath, and quickly walked towards the family's martial practice field. Zhao Feng was half squatting in a horse stance, and his fists were faintly emitting wind as he practiced the Zhao family's classic martial art, Flaming Metal Fist. Flaming Metal Fist was only a basic martial art, but Zhao Feng practiced it meticulously, skillfully, and smoothly. In the secular world, normal martial arts were divided into 5 levels: basic, low, middle, high, and peak. Basic martial arts were the lowest level and mainly focused on tempering the body, strengthening blood and qi, but their killing power was limited. Generally speaking, the higher the level of the martial art, the more powerful it would be, and the better the effect of cultivation. But with Zhao Feng's status as a branch family disciple and his lack of talent, it was hard for him to come into contact with higher-level martial arts. I've been stuck at the peak of the first rank of the martial path for a long time, and I still need some time to break through to the second rank. After practicing for a long time, Zhao Feng was drenched in sweat, and his breathing was rapid. Zhao Feng's talent wasn't bad, but the reason why he couldn't catch up to the main disciples of the Zhao clan was because they had a higher-level cultivation method. Their family was rich, and they could use some precious elixirs to increase their cultivation speed. It was said that some of the Zhao clan disciples had used precious elixirs to strengthen their bodies, and before the age of 10, they had successfully broken through to the first rank of the martial path, and they had a unique advantage. At the starting line, Zhao Feng was too far behind them. Half an hour later, the sun slowly rose from the horizon. On the martial practice field, more and more disciples of the Zhao family appeared, talking, laughing, and playing. When some of the Zhao clan disciples saw Zhao Feng, their expressions suddenly turned cold, and they even showed some disdain. This kind of attitude wasn't only directed at Zhao Feng. The main disciples of the Zhao clan had always been a little xenophobic, and they looked down on disciples from the branch family. In front of the branch family disciples, they had an inexplicable sense of superiority. When Zhao Feng was slightly dazed, a wind whistled behind him. "Little Jinx! Stop right there." A hand that was as hard as iron slapped his shoulder. "It's you?" Zhao Feng staggered and he almost fell. Luckily, his foundation was solid and he stabilized his body. The person who came was a black-clothed youth, strong and muscular, with thick eyebrows and fierce eyes. There was a trace of playfulness in his eyes as he looked down on Zhao Feng. "Zhao Kun, what is the meaning of this?" Zhao Feng's face was filled with anger. When he first came to the Zhao family, Zhao Feng and Zhao Kun had a conflict. The reason was because Zhao Kun mocked and looked down on the branch family disciples, and Zhao Feng was dissatisfied and talked back. Zhao Kun was a person who would seek revenge for the smallest grievance. Since then he often found trouble with Zhao Feng, and thought of all kinds of ways to humiliate him. "Zhao Kun, with your strength, if you can't take down this branch family disciple in 10 moves, then it'll be too boring." 10 moves? Zhao Kun has already cultivated to the peak of the second stage of the martial path. "I think 3 moves is enough to deal with that kid." 3 moves? I'm afraid it won't be easy to fight him head-on. Some of the Zhao clan disciples nearby looked like they were watching a good show. Most of them wanted to see the world in chaos and they egged him on. 3 moves? Ah. Zhao Kun threw his head back and laughed and his face was full of disdain. "You guys have underestimated me, Zhao Kun. I only need 1 move to defeat this kid." Only 1 move. The disciples present were in an uproar and many of them were shocked. 1 move? Zhao Feng's eyebrows twitched and his face changed slightly. Anger rose in his heart. There was a difference of 1 stage between him and Zhao Kun, and if Zhao Kun performed well, it was indeed possible for him to defeat him in 3 moves. But 1 move, that was a blatant insult. Facing Zhao Kun's provocative gaze, Zhao Feng quickly calmed down. "I can't fall for his trick. Even if I can survive 1 move, I'll still be humiliated." In the past half a year in the Zhao family he had suffered a lot of losses, and he had gradually learned to endure. Today's cultivation is quite tiring. Let me rest for a few days and I'll spar with you again. Zhao Feng's face was expressionless as he turned around and left. His performance caused Zhao Kun and the other youths of the same age to be slightly stunned. "Good kid, I'll let you off today, but the next time we meet, don't forget today's 1 move pact." Zhao Kun's eyes flashed with a trace of viciousness and cunning. 1 move pact? Zhao Feng's heart jumped. It seemed like Zhao Kun was not willing to let him off. "I must break through to the second stage of the martial path as soon as possible, only then can I fight with Zhao Kun." Zhao Feng's heart was pressing. After leaving the martial arts field, Zhao Feng returned home. Ever since Zhao Feng entered the Zhao family, his parents in the town also benefited from it, and also entered the Zhao family. This should have been the glory of his parents. But Zhao Feng had always been a little ashamed. His performance in the Zhao family had disappointed his parents, and also let down the expectations of the elders in Greenleaf Town. "You're back." A calm and slightly weathered man walked out. It was Zhao Feng's father, Zhao Tianyang. "Feng, come and eat." His mother, Zhao Clan, with a face full of love, brought out the food from the kitchen. Every time he returned home, Zhao Feng could only feel the warmth. "Thank you, mother. It's really delicious." Zhao Feng gulped down the food and his words were a little slurred. During the meal, Zhao Tianyang and Zhao Clan did not speak as if they wanted to say something. "Father, mother, you two are..." Zhao Feng found that his parents' expression was a little solemn as if they had something to say. Zhao Tianyang and his wife looked at each other and let out a long sigh. "Let me say it, not long ago the higher-ups of the clan sent a message." Zhao Tianyang slightly paused. "The higher-ups of the clan?" Zhao Feng was a little puzzled. Zhao Tianyang's expression was solemn. "There is a new rule in the clan. If a branch family disciple cannot break through to the second rank of the martial path, then they will not have the right to participate in the clan martial meet. If, before the age of 15 they cannot reach the 3rd rank of the martial path, then they will be sent back to their original branch family." What? Zhao Feng's heart thumped, and his expression changed greatly. The clan martial meet was a chance for all the youths of the clan to compete. If one ranked higher, then in addition to the generous rewards, there was also the chance to become an inner disciple and be trained by the clan. Therefore, the clan martial meet was a chance for all the outer disciples to become a carp leaping through the dragon's gate. If they lost the right to participate in the clan martial meet, it was the same as being abandoned by the clan. But what made Zhao Feng's heart cold was the last rule. Before the age of 15, if they cannot reach the third rank of the martial path, then they will be sent back to their original branch family. No, this is absolutely not possible. Zhao Feng's voice trembled and his fists clenched. Whether it was him or his parents, they did not have the face to return to the Greenleaf Village branch family. This rule is specifically for branch family disciples. His mother, Zhao Clan's face showed a trace of dissatisfaction. Father, mother, don't worry. I will definitely train harder, and before the clan martial meet, I will break through to the second rank of the martial path. Zhao Feng clenched his teeth and his voice trembled slightly. There are still 2 months until the clan meet, and the registration needs to be a month in advance. If you want to break through to the second rank of the martial path within a month, I'm afraid it won't be easy. Zhao Tianyang shook his head. Only a month? Zhao Feng's expression dimmed as if he had fallen into the abyss. If it was 2 months and he worked even harder, then he might have a 20 to 30% chance. But to break through to the second rank of the martial path in a month, he had no confidence at all. After a long period of silence, Zhao Clan lightly wiped the tears from the corner of his eyes and softly said, Feng, no matter if you succeed or fail, we will always be proud of you. At most, we will return to Greenleaf Village as long as you live a peaceful life. That's right. When we return to Greenleaf Village, you will still be one of the top disciples of the Zhao family. Rather be the head of a chicken than the tail of a phoenix. Zhao Tianyang nodded his head in agreement. As parents, they all wished for their children to live a peaceful life, even if it was a bit ordinary. Return to Greenleaf Village? No. Zhao Feng shook his head violently. I don't want to return to Greenleaf Village and live a mediocre life. He once swore, I will definitely win a place in the Zhao family, and make a name for myself in Sunfeather City. In his heart, he yearned for the 9th rank of the martial path, the peak of the martial path and the outside world. How could he just give up and go back like this? Zhao Feng forcefully held back the tears from the corner of his eyes, and with a roar, he rushed out of the house. Feng, don't be stubborn. His parents hurriedly called out to him. Boom. Suddenly the sound of thunder exploded in the sky, and it started to rain heavily outside. Zhao Feng felt extremely sullen and with a long roar, he ran in the rain. At this time, the sky was filled with flashes of lightning, and the youth's face was flickering between light and dark. Not good. Zhao Feng only felt a sense of pressure, and when he looked up he was extremely shocked. In his entire life he had never seen such a vast amount of lightning. It was so dense that it looked like a spider web. In a short instant the lightning above his head seemed to be affected by some kind of power, and it seemed to distort and collapse along with the space around it. Whoosh! A faint black light flashed across the endless sky. It passed through the dense lightning, causing ripples, and it was as beautiful as a dream. It was unimaginable what kind of existence this faint black light was, and it was able to ignore the power of nature's lightning. Poof! Zhao Feng only felt his feet go numb, and his hair and clothes were burnt black. The rumbling sound stopped in his ears. The entire world seemed to have fallen into a dead silence. This is... His face was pale, and he looked at the strange black bead under his feet. It was like an eyeball, and it was formed by the faint black light. Thump. Thump. The eyeball-shaped black bead seemed to have a life of its own. It gave off a frequent beating sound, and it looked at Zhao Feng. For some reason, the rhythm of the eyeball beating seemed to perfectly match his heartbeat, and it gave Zhao Feng a feeling of familiarity. He faintly heard some kind of calling. Could it be that this thing is alive? He held his breath, and his face was alert and guarded. However, before he could do anything, poof, the eyeball-shaped black bead turned into a shadow, and it pierced into Zhao Feng's left eye. Zhao Feng screamed and fainted. The moment before he fainted, he only had one thought: it's over? I'm blind. Chapter 2. After an unknown amount of time, Zhao Feng gradually regained some consciousness, but he could barely feel the existence of his body. The only thing he could feel was the pain in his left eye. Left eye. Zhao Feng shuddered. He suddenly remembered, before he fainted, that strange eyeball-shaped black bead had pierced into his left eye. If there were no accidents, his left eye was very likely to be blind, enough to be compared to those ugly and violent one-eyed dragons. Thinking about this, Zhao Feng wanted to cry but had no tears. Thump thump. Thump thump. A faint heartbeat, with an inexplicable sense of intimacy, came from the left eye that might have been blinded. Because the left eye was the only part of his body that Zhao Feng could feel, he had to use all his strength to feel. Whoosh. With a thought, his consciousness actually merged into his left eye. Boom. His mind shook violently. Zhao Feng's consciousness entered a dark and empty space. In the center of the space, there was an extremely dark cyan spiral ring of light that extended for more than a foot. This place is... Zhao Feng was filled with fear of the unknown. Such a strange scene was completely beyond his understanding. His mind was attracted by the cyan spiral ring of light in the center of the dark space. That cyan spiral ring of light was mysterious, deep, and boundless. It slowly rotated, as if it had extended from the ancient times to the present, giving people a feeling of eternity and eternity. Zhao Feng's mind was attracted by it, and he was almost completely immersed in it, unable to extricate himself until the end of time and space. Eternity shatters, the ancient gods fall, turning into trillions of dust. The empty and desolate sigh echoed in the dark space, as if it had pierced through time and space. Who is it? Zhao Feng's mind was shaken and his body was cold. He looked around the dark space but didn't see anyone. That voice seemed to come from the space itself. There is actually a living being in this world that is so compatible with my soul. Could it be fate? The mysterious voice muttered to itself. Who is it sneaking around? Zhao Feng suppressed his fear and shouted loudly. Continue the supreme divine power of my eye bloodline, rule the ages and control the ages. Lucky Jr., don't disappoint me. In the pitch-black space, a will that looked down on the entire universe suddenly surged out and gradually disappeared along with the voice. Everything returned to normal. Who? Zhao Feng heaved a sigh of relief, but before he could think further, a sharp pain came from his left eye. In the room, the scorching sun shone through the window. My eyes. Zhao Feng screamed and covered his red, swollen left eye. At this time, Zhao Feng had already woken up and returned to reality. This was his room. Zhao Feng was lying on the bed. There were still some charred marks on his body. Clearly he had been affected by the lightning. At this moment, the pain from his left eye made him sweat profusely as he rolled around in the room. Fortunately, as time passed, the pain gradually lessened. My eyes. With a worried expression, Zhao Feng slowly loosened the hand on his left eye. He wasn't sure if his left eye would still be able to see the light. However, when his left eye saw the first ray of sunlight, the strong piercing feeling made Zhao Feng let out a sigh of relief. His left eye gradually adapted to the strong light and was able to see the outside world. What happened next shocked Zhao Feng and caused him to be stunned on the spot. At that moment, the entire world seemed to be dyed with a myriad of colors, becoming a riot of colors. In his left eye's field of vision, everything became extremely bright and clear. Zhao Feng could even see some fine dust and water vapor floating in the air. Those were not fine particles that could be seen with normal vision. As his eyes focused, he could even see the ants on the trees 100 meters away and the fine patterns on the leaves. What's going on? My left eye actually. While Zhao Feng was shocked, he revealed a hint of joy. He was sure that his left eye had undergone some kind of change and was more than 10 times stronger than before. Zhao Feng took out a mirror and carefully observed. The size and shape of his left eye were not much different from before. The only difference was that the center of the eye was darker and deeper than the average person's eye. And when he fully activated his left eye, the surface of the eyeball flashed a faint green luster. These differences, although not obvious, made Zhao Feng's heart beat wildly. Could it be that mysterious eye has fused with my left eye? Zhao Feng's heart was half happy and half worried. After a long while, he took a deep breath and walked out of his room. Feng, you didn't wake up for a day and a night. You made mother worried. Zhao Clan saw that his son was safe and sound and cried tears of joy. Mother, I'm fine. Maybe it was a blessing in disguise. Zhao Feng grinned. But his face quickly changed. Wait, mother said. I was unconscious for a day and a night? Yes, that day you were struck by lightning. The medicine master came to see you and said that you were only temporarily unconscious. Zhao Clan wiped his tears and looked a little scared. While they were talking, Zhao Feng's stomach growled. Only then did he feel thirsty. Come. Mother will make you something to eat. Zhao Clan hurriedly went to the kitchen and got busy. During this time, Zhao Feng constantly used his left eye to observe the outside world and faintly felt that his body had some slight changes. The most obvious change was his reaction speed. Buzz buzz. While eating, Zhao Feng's eyes stared at a fly in front of him. His left eye can clearly capture the fly's flight path. Not only can he distinguish the gender, but he can even clearly see the fine lines on the wings. Swish. He subconsciously waved the chopsticks in his hand. Suddenly the annoying buzzing sound stopped. Ah! Zhao Feng looked at the fly that was killed by his chopsticks and laughed in his heart. That is too cool. Because of his left eye, Zhao Feng's reaction speed and sensitivity far exceeded that of ordinary people. After eating, Zhao Feng was full of energy and walked towards the martial arts field. He had a feeling that the mysterious mutated left eye might change his life. The mutated left eye let out a trace of warmth, accompanied by a faint thumping sound. He didn't know that as the mysterious eye merged with his body and bloodline were changing. Martial arts field. As usual, Zhao Feng prepared to start practicing the foundation martial arts. Ah! Zhao Feng, you're finally here. I thought you would be a coward. A wild laughter came from the other side of the martial arts field. Shit. Zhao Feng thought to himself and looked at the fierce-looking Zhao Kun as he strode towards him. He then remembered the one-move promise with Zhao Kun yesterday. Following Zhao Kun's loud laughter, many of the clan's disciples gathered near the martial practice field. Looks like I can't avoid it. Zhao Feng could only brace himself and walk over. Zhao Feng, you better be ready. One move. I only need one move to knock you down. Zhao Kun's tall body was like a fierce tiger, closing in on Zhao Feng, giving the latter a lot of pressure. As soon as he finished, his hands and body contracted in a strange posture, like a coiling poisonous snake, emitting a cold and poisonous aura. Zhao Feng suddenly felt a strange chill, as if he was being stared at by a poisonous snake. My God, it's the high-ranked martial art 13 changes of the poisonous snake. Exclamations came from the crowd as they recognized the technique that Zhao Kun had used. High-ranked martial art, how is this possible? Disciples of the second rank of the martial path can only choose middle-ranked martial arts from the martial arts library. How can Zhao Kun know a high-ranked martial art? You might not know, but Zhao Kun's grandfather is an elder of the clan. No wonder Zhao Kun has the confidence to win in one move. He has mastered 13 changes of the poisonous snake. Many of the surrounding disciples couldn't help but shiver. Even those whose cultivation was higher than Zhao Kun's had a serious expression. It's a high-ranked martial art. Zhao Feng sucked in a breath of cold air. In the Zhao family, disciples below the fourth rank of the martial path usually trained in low and middle-ranked martial arts. As for Zhao Feng, he hadn't reached the second rank of the martial path, so he couldn't enter the martial arts library, so he couldn't even learn low-ranked martial arts. A high-ranked martial art like 13 changes of the poisonous snake was much stronger than low and middle-ranked martial arts, not something that basic martial arts could compare to. At this moment, Zhao Kun had only raised his hand, but it gave Zhao Feng a lot of pressure, as if the slightest movement would cause him to suffer a fatal attack like a poisonous snake. No wonder Zhao Kun has the confidence to beat me in one move. Zhao Feng's heartbeat sped up. Under normal circumstances, he might not be able to take one hit from a high-ranked martial art. Not to mention that Zhao Kun's cultivation was higher than his by one rank. Pung pung. Pung pung. Under the unprecedented pressure, Zhao Feng felt his left eye twitch as if he was excited to try it out. Zhao Feng couldn't help but use his left eye to focus on Zhao Kun's body. At this time, no one noticed that on the surface of Zhao Feng's left eye, there was an almost undetectable green glow. Shua. Zhao Feng suddenly entered an extremely powerful visual interface. In his vision, Zhao Kun's body was zoomed in, and every minute change of his body, including his breathing, heartbeat, muscles and veins, was reflected in his left eye. In that instant, everything in the world seemed to slow down by many times. However, the speed of the world did not change. What changed was Zhao Feng's reaction speed. Under such a powerful visual interface, Zhao Feng's state of mind became extremely calm. His opponent, Zhao Kun, shuddered inexplicably. He felt as if all his secrets had been seen through. Third transformation of the poisonous snake. Zhao Kun's face was vicious, and without hesitation he used his strongest move. His body was like a poisonous snake as he shot out like lightning, changing from extreme stillness to extreme movement, producing a shocking speed and explosive power. In the blink of an eye, Zhao Kun's two fingers were like the fangs of a poisonous snake, slicing through the air and piercing towards Zhao Feng's body. So fast. Many of the disciples on the field exclaimed. Many of the youths of the second rank of the martial path couldn't even see Zhao Kun's movements clearly. Zhao Kun's fang-like fingers were only half an inch away from hitting its target, causing Zhao Feng to lose. Bang! Suddenly, a powerful fist hit Zhao Kun's arm, causing the latter's body to sway. What's going on? Zhao Kun's mind shook, his body stiffened and his arm became numb. His finger was only half an inch away from Zhao Feng's chest, but it couldn't go any further. Peng! Zhao Kun felt a pain in his abdomen and with a scream he was sent flying. What's going on? The crowd of Zhao clan disciples exclaimed. One move you lost. Chapter 3. One move you've lost. The shock and excitement on Zhao Feng's face couldn't be concealed. Did I win? Or did I win in one move? Before the battle, because of the change in his left eye, Zhao Feng was confident that with his reaction speed and insight, he would be able to block one move from Zhao Kun. If he performed well, he might be able to last for more than 10 moves. But the final result was completely out of his expectations. Zhao Kun's sudden attack wasn't slow, the spectators couldn't see it clearly, but under his left eye, all of his movements were clear and distinct. When his left eye was activated to its limit, Zhao Feng felt that his opponent's movements were slightly clumsy and slow. What was even more unbelievable was that he could see the flaws in Zhao Kun's moves. Flaws in high-ranked martial arts. Zhao Feng also didn't understand why he could see through the flaws in his opponent's moves so easily. Maybe his opponent's high-ranked martial arts hadn't been trained to perfection. In the end, Zhao Feng instinctively attacked, just like how he killed a fly with chopsticks, accurately intercepting his opponent's fatal flaw and winning in one move. What? The disciples on the martial arts field were in an uproar. Could it be that my eyes are playing tricks on me? The one who lost is actually Zhao Kun. It's true, the one who lost is Zhao Kun. The crowd of Zhao clan disciples were dumbfounded, their expressions weird. How is this possible? I actually lost to this guy. Zhao Kun's face was filled with confusion and doubt. That's right. He lost in a daze, completely clueless. At that moment, Zhao Feng and Zhao Kun's expressions formed a sharp contrast. This is definitely an accident. Some of the Zhao clan disciples looked at Zhao Feng's shocked expression and suddenly understood. As these words were said, the crowd all agreed. That's right. This kid must have had good luck and won by coincidence. His luck is too fucking good. Everyone understood. They now had a logical explanation for Zhao Feng's victory. Luck? Maybe. Zhao Feng smiled faintly and turned to leave. Kid. Stop right there. Zhao Kun clutched his abdomen and struggled to stand up. With a dark face he said, Zhao Feng, you were lucky to win just now. Let's have another match. Another round? Zhao Feng frowned and glanced at Zhao Kun. First, you're injured. Second, I'm not free. After that, he turned around and walked to the corner of the martial arts practice field, leaving a group of Zhao clan members looking at each other in dismay. Little bastard. Once I've recovered from my injuries and perfected the 13 transformations of the Viper, I'll come and settle the score with you. Zhao Kun's face was filled with shock and anger as he left resentfully. Recalling the battle just now, Zhao Kun came to the conclusion that there were three main reasons for his defeat. First, he had underestimated his opponent. Secondly, he had only mastered the first 3 forms of the 13 transformations of the Viper, and there were still some flaws, so it was not perfect. Thirdly, Zhao Feng's luck was too good. On the other side of the martial arts practice field, Zhao Feng began to practice. The reason why I could win just now was because Zhao Kun had underestimated his opponent. High-ranked martial arts are mysterious and he had not mastered them yet, so I saw through his flaws. Zhao Feng's heart was very clear. The next time they fought, Zhao Kun would definitely not underestimate his opponent. If he could perfect the first 3 forms of the 13 transformations of the Viper, then Zhao Feng would not have the confidence to win. After all, there was a huge gap between the first and second ranks of the martial path. There were 9 ranks in the martial path, and the first 3 were called the power training stage. The so-called power training stage was to train one's strength, strengthen one's blood, and solidify the body's foundation. Therefore, between the first and second ranks of the martial path, there would be a huge difference of 1 to 200 pounds in strength. From this, it could be seen how difficult it was for a first rank to defeat a second rank, not to mention winning in one move. The key is still to increase my strength. Zhao Feng took a deep breath, and began to practice the flaming metal fist. The first form, the second form, the third form, the flaming metal fist on Zhao Feng's body flowed like water, smoother than ever before. Oh! Zhao Feng took back his fist and exhaled. His face was filled with surprise. The flaming metal fist had a total of 32 forms, and he had completed them in one breath. His speed was faster than before and his strength was also stronger. After completing the entire set, he felt the blood in his body flow more smoothly and become more vigorous as if it was burning. Ping pong, ping pong. At the same time, the beating sound coming from his left eye became more and more intense. Zhao Feng closed his eyes, and his consciousness quickly entered a pitch-black space. In the center of the space there was a faint green spiral. Originally the spiral was only 1 foot long and it was very dim. But now, the length and brightness of the light green spiral seemed to have increased. Could it be? The special ability of my left eye is related to my own strength. Zhao Feng secretly guessed. The strange changes in his left eye gave him an opportunity to change his fate. First, it allowed him to win against Zhao Kun, and now, his training also became very smooth. Again. Zhao Feng's eyes became sharp, and he continued to practice the flaming metal fist. Peng peng peng. Zhao Feng's punching speed and body movements became faster and faster. The fist technique was like quicksilver falling to the ground, growing and multiplying. After practicing for the 3rd time, his speed was already twice as fast as before, and his power had at least doubled. As he breathed, he felt the blood in his body surge. The parts of his body that he normally couldn't train were now being refined. With this speed, I should be able to break through to the 2nd rank of the martial path in the next few days. Zhao Feng could clearly feel his improvement. After practicing all the way until evening, Zhao Feng wiped his sweat and returned home. After returning home he was still thinking about the changes in his left eye. Continue the godly power of my bloodline, rule the world, control the world, lucky youngster, don't let me down. He remembered the voice that sounded in the dark space when he was unconscious. Zhao Feng guessed. This eye most likely came from an ancient godlike existence, and by chance, it fused with his left eye. Even at night, when he opened his eyes, he could clearly see the objects outside. That dark night had almost no effect on Zhao Feng's vision. His eyes could even clearly see the birds flying in the sky a few miles away. Lying on his bed at night, Zhao Feng felt his left eye twitch, releasing a trace of warmth that merged into his blood and into the depths of his body. In this strange feeling, Zhao Feng slowly fell asleep. The next morning, Zhao Feng woke up early, stretched his limbs, and practiced in the narrow courtyard. This courtyard is too old and the environment is terrible. When I become stronger, I will definitely move my parents into a spacious courtyard. Zhao Feng thought to himself. Very quickly, he started to practice the 32 moves of the flaming metal fist. Bang! His fists whistled through the air, vibrating violently with shocking power. Just as Zhao Feng threw out a few punches, he felt that something was wrong. In between breaths, the blood in his body surged, and each punch had at least 400 to 500 pounds of power. Zhao Feng was slightly surprised. His fists were like 2 balls of fire whistling through the air. Bang! Kacha! A fist smashed into the tree in front of him, and a branch as thick as a fist was instantly broken into several pieces. Oh, this is definitely not the power of the 1st rank of the martial path, could it be? Zhao Feng's heart skipped a beat. In order to verify his guess, he took a deep breath, gathered all his strength, circulated his blood, and fiercely stomped on the ground. Boom! The ground shook and the soil cracked, causing Zhao Feng's foot to sink half an inch into the ground. His face was filled with joy, and he struck a large stone in front of him, which instantly shattered into pieces. This kind of power was not something that a 1st rank of the martial path could achieve. 2nd rank of the martial path. I actually broke through to the 2nd rank of the martial path. Zhao Feng was overjoyed and he closed his eyes, feeling the stronger blood in his body. He originally thought that it would take 1 or 2 days to break through to the 2nd rank of the martial path, but who would have thought that after sleeping for a night, he would naturally break through. Merging his consciousness into his left eye, Zhao Feng found that the faint green light in the dark space had extended from 1 foot 8-9 to 2 feet. He could faintly feel that his energy was stronger than before, and there were other indescribable changes. Chapter 4. Now that I've reached the 2nd rank of the martial path, I'm no longer at the bottom of my peers in the Zhao clan. I have the right to participate in the clan martial meet. Zhao Feng gradually calmed down from his excitement. The martial path was split into 9 ranks, and each rank was more difficult than the last. Everyone knew that the 1st to 3rd ranks of the martial path were called the power training rank, and they were called martial disciples. Martial disciples focused on training their bodies and strengthening their blood and chi in order to build a good foundation for the higher ranks. The body was the foundation of all cultivation, so the consolidation of the power training rank would directly affect the later ranks. Although martial disciples were the lowest rank, and could only be considered as the beginning of the martial path, the peak of the 3rd rank was not to be underestimated. They would have at least 700 to 800 pounds of strength, and those who were born with good physiques could have over 1,000 pounds of strength, and they could tear apart tigers and leopards with their bare hands. Now that Zhao Feng had reached the second rank of the martial path, he had at least 400 to 500 pounds of strength, which was far beyond the range of ordinary people. If he used a powerful martial skill, then even 10 ordinary people wouldn't be able to get close to him. If I can reach the third rank of the martial path, I will have 700 to 800 pounds of strength, and my strength will at least double. Zhao Feng thought to himself. Of course, what he really yearned for was to become a true martial artist above the fourth rank of the martial path. The fourth to sixth ranks of the martial path were called the Qi accumulation rank, and they were called martial disciples, true martial disciples. Stepping into this rank, not only would a martial artist's physique, strength and blood greatly increase, but they could also strengthen their organs and comprehend the martial path inner strength, which surpassed the range of pure physical attacks. Their strength would increase by leaps and bounds, and they would have all kinds of unimaginable abilities. Once they became a true martial disciple, they would truly break away from the mortal world and become a person above others. Back in Greenleaf Village, Zhao Feng had already made up his mind to become a true martial disciple. Entering the Zhao family made this wish a little closer. After reaching the second rank of the martial path, Zhao Feng immediately told his parents about this news. Second rank of the martial path? His father, Zhao Tianyang, and his mother, Zhao Clan, were both shocked, but they immediately let out a sigh of relief. For Zhao Feng to be able to break through to the second rank of the martial path at this age without any external help, it could be seen that his talent was better than most people. Next, you have to do your best to prepare for the clan martial meet in 2 months. You don't need to obtain a good ranking, just don't lose too much face. Zhao Tianyang revealed a trace of a pleasant smile. The Zhao clan also looked relieved, as if a heavy burden had been lifted from their shoulders. They were satisfied that Zhao Feng could make it this far, so they didn't have high expectations. However, Zhao Feng's goal was not limited to this. He was determined to become a true martial artist and even reach the peak of martial arts. Now that I've reached the second rank of the martial path, my position in the clan has increased. I now have the right to enter the first floor of the martial arts library. In the clan's martial arts library, there were many cultivation techniques and cultivation manuals. Thinking of this, Zhao Feng immediately headed to the martial arts pavilion. Brother Feng. Along the way, a young girl's surprised voice sounded. The young girl's voice carried a trace of tenderness, and a sense of familiarity that he hadn't heard for a long time. Zhao Feng's body slightly stiffened. From his side, a man and a woman walked over, both of them young. One of them was a youth in purple with long straight eyebrows and a straight figure. His eyes contained a sharp intent, and his cultivation had reached the peak of the third rank of the martial path, causing the nearby clan disciples to feel a deep sense of pressure. He's the third-ranked disciple of the clan's outer disciples, Zhao Yijian! Many people in the surroundings cried out in surprise, their faces filled with fear and dread. Standing next to Zhao Yijian was a young girl in a snow-white robe. Her age was the same as Zhao Feng's, around 13 or 14 years old. She was beautiful just like a baby beauty. Sister Shui. Zhao Feng looked at the girl in the snow-white robe, and the corner of his mouth unconsciously curled up in a mocking smile. The girl in front of him was Zhao Shui, who had followed him into the Zhao family half a year ago. That year in Qingye town, Zhao Shui worshipped and adored him. But after she entered the Zhao family, they gradually drifted apart, and from then on they were like strangers. After Zhao Shui entered the Zhao family, she used her natural beauty to quickly climb up to the third-ranked disciple of the outer disciples, Zhao Yijian, and had already reached the second rank of the martial path half a month ago. At this moment, Zhao Shui and Zhao Yijian spoke in a low voice. "All right, but don't take too long." Zhao Yijian nodded his head, and he didn't even bother to look at Zhao Feng. Zhao Shui walked in front of Zhao Feng and looked at him from a close distance. Her expression was slightly complicated and she sighed, "Brother Feng, you've finally reached the second rank of the martial path. But Shui, still has to give you a piece of advice. Don't be too headstrong. When we enter the clan we will have a low starting point, and it will be hard for us to catch up to those heavenly pets." "What are you trying to say?" Zhao Feng interrupted her words, and his expression was slightly cold. A hint of anger appeared on Zhao Shui's face and she gritted her teeth. "Brother Feng, this is the last time Shui will give you a piece of advice. Go and express your goodwill to Brother Jian. With his help you will be able to successfully integrate into the Zhao clan, and avoid any trouble. Express my goodwill to him?" Zhao Feng instantly smiled coldly and didn't say a word. In his life he had never submitted to anyone. Zhao Yijin's nature was cold and he was extremely arrogant. Every time he saw Zhao Feng he would look down on him with his nose in the air. Seeing Zhao Feng's expression, Zhao Shui immediately understood. After all, the two of them were practically childhood sweethearts, and she understood Zhao Feng very well. Zhao Shui walked back to Zhao Yijin's side, and said something in a low voice. Ungrateful trash. Zhao Yijin's cold voice resounded. Trash. Zhao Feng's eyebrows twitched. Perhaps seeing Zhao Feng's unwillingness, Zhao Yijin paused and coldly said, I heard that you're a genius from Greenleaf Town? But in the Zhao family you're just a clown. At the clan's martial meet, I only need one move to defeat you. That's exactly what I wanted, see you at the clan's martial meet. Zhao Feng coldly laughed and turned around, walking towards the martial arts library. He didn't want to win with words. In 2 months the clan's martial meet would begin, and at that time strength would speak. As she watched Zhao Feng's figure leave, Zhao Shui's beautiful eyes flashed. At this moment she felt a sense of unfamiliarity from Zhao Feng. It was an indescribable intuition. He really thinks too highly of himself. Zhao Yijin sneered. He didn't even consider Zhao Feng as a worthy opponent. In the outer circle of the Zhao family, there were no less than 50 to 60 disciples who had reached the third rank of the martial path. How could he be ranked third amongst these disciples? Zhao Shui inwardly sighed. Zhao Feng was asking for it. She was very clear of Zhao Yijin's strength. Some of the outstanding disciples of the third rank of the martial path couldn't even withstand a single strike from him. Soon, Zhao Feng arrived at the clan's most important place, the martial arts library. The martial arts library was the most important place in the clan, and was guarded by the clan elders. Branch disciple? Within the martial arts library, the white-robed elder looked at Zhao Feng's badge, and his eyebrows slightly furrowed. Greetings, elder. Zhao Feng's face was full of politeness. He was very clear of the clan elder's strength. Through the senses of his left eye, he could feel a mysterious and tyrannical power from the elder's body. It was a layer of fiery red aura, born from flesh and blood, but also flowing through the meridians of the body. It could even leave the body at any time, injuring people through the air and shattering metal. Zhao Feng knew that the white-robed elder had already trained his inner strength to perfection, and could easily explode with the power of lightning. Even if there were 100 of him, he could still kill them in an instant. Usually, only martial artists of the fourth rank of the martial path and above had inner strength. Martial disciples like Zhao Feng and Zhao Kun couldn't possibly have inner strength. Zhao Feng bowed and said, Elder, I want to enter the second floor Shuangwu Pavilion. It's not bad for you to reach the second rank of the martial path at the age of 14. However, before becoming an inner disciple, branch disciples and main disciples will be treated differently when entering the martial arts library. The white-robed elder said indifferently. Hearing this, Zhao Feng was slightly stunned, but when he thought of the new rules of the Zhao family, he immediately understood. Elder, please speak. Zhao Feng understood that before he had absolute strength, he had no right to bargain. The white-robed elder said expressionlessly, Disciples of the second rank of the martial path can only enter the first floor of the martial arts library. On the first floor of the martial arts library, there are many low-ranked martial arts, and a few middle-ranked martial arts. The disciples of the main clan can choose at most 2 middle-ranked martial arts or 4 low-ranked martial arts and take them out to practice for 2 months. As for the branch clan disciples, they can choose at most 1 middle-ranked martial art or 2 low-ranked martial arts for 1 month. Hearing the rules, Zhao Feng took a deep breath. I understand. The rules of the martial arts library had a huge difference in the treatment of main disciples and branch disciples. Whether it was the number of choices or the training time, the branch disciples could not compare to the main disciples. The difference was basically 2 times. Good. You can enter now, the training time is half an hour. With the white-robed elder's permission, Zhao Feng slowly stepped into the martial arts library. This was the place he had dreamed of entering. Chapter 5. The martial arts library was an important place for the Zhao clan's martial arts. It contained all kinds of martial arts that had been passed down from generation to generation, so that the clan could continue to prosper. Usually, the number and quality of martial arts manuals could measure the strength and power of a clan. Zhao Feng remembered that the Zhao family of Qingye Town did not have such an institution. The martial arts library was divided into 3 levels. The first level contained a large number of martial arts manuals, with a few middle-ranked ones included. The second level contained the essence of the clan's martial arts manuals. Most of them were high-ranked and there were even a few top-ranked ones. But the second level, Xuanwu Pavilion, could only be entered by martial artists who were at least of the fourth rank of the martial path. As for the third level, it had always been a legend and had never been open to the public. For Zhao Feng, not to mention the second level, Xuanwu Pavilion, even the first level contained martial arts manuals. In the Zhao clan he had no background and no talent. The flaming metal fist was only a basic martial art, and compared to low-ranked martial arts, there was a huge difference. Now that he had reached the second rank of the martial path, he had the right to enter the first level of the martial arts library and choose his own martial arts. The Zhao family is indeed one of the three great clans of Sun Feather City, above hundreds of other clans. Zhao Feng stepped into the first level of the martial arts library, feeling slightly nervous. On the first level of the martial arts library, one could see the figures of a few Zhao clan disciples. They were all making the best use of their time to choose their own martial arts. According to the rules, one could only enter the martial arts library for half an hour. Therefore, everyone who entered the martial arts library was making every second count. I have half an hour to choose a middle-ranked martial art, or two low-ranked martial arts. Zhao Feng took a deep breath, and his eyes swept across the shelves. There were thousands of martial arts manuals on the first level of the martial arts library, and each one was half an inch thick. To choose one or two suitable martial arts from such a large number of martial arts manuals was not an easy task. Crushing Stone Palm, Angry Dragon Fist, Willow Leaf Picking Star Sword, Heavenly Wind Wish Steps. All kinds of martial arts secret manuals dazzled Zhao Feng. Whoosh, whoosh. Zhao Feng quickly flipped through the first page of these martial arts manuals. These secret manuals usually had a comprehensive summary on the first page. Hurricane Blade. Blade technique like the wind, momentum like thunder, speed to win. Requirement: first rank of the martial path, average difficulty. Martial arts level. Low Angry Dragon Fist. Able to increase the strength of the qi and blood in the cultivator's body. Able to instantly condense qi and blood, using its power to suppress others. Astonishing explosive power. It required one to be at the second rank of the martial path, and the difficulty was high. Martial arts level. Peak intermediate level. Heavenly Wind Rui Steps. A close combat footwork that uses slow movement. When cultivated to perfection, one can contend with several martial artists of the same level without being defeated. The requirement was the first rank of the martial path, but it required a certain level of comprehension. Martial arts level. Intermediate, Iron Star Sand. A horizontal cultivation method that strengthens the body and defense. When activated at full power, it can withstand the attacks of cultivators of the same level. When trained to a high level, it can withstand swords and blades with its body. The requirement was the second rank of the martial path. The difficulty is high, and it requires great determination and perseverance. Martial arts level. Intermediate. The martial arts library's martial arts manuals really far surpass the foundational martial arts. Zhao Feng was elated. Most of his attention was on the intermediate martial arts. Just by looking through tens of martial arts manuals, Zhao Feng's heart was already moved a few times. However, the martial arts library had a limit. When he reached the second rank of the martial path, he could only bring out one intermediate martial arts manual. If only he could bring out a few more. Zhao Feng's heart was filled with unwillingness and unwillingness. Branch family disciples can only choose one intermediate martial art, but main family disciples can choose two. To increase the speed of his selection, Zhao Feng secretly activated his left eye. Even if he didn't use his left eye, Zhao Feng's reading speed was much faster than normal people. Now that he used his left eye's ability, his reading speed increased by tens of times. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. Zhao Feng's left eye twitched as he flipped through these martial arts manuals at a terrifying speed. He only needed to glance at these martial arts manuals to see them clearly. After flipping through tens of manuals, Zhao Feng completely remembered the contents of the manuals and compared them with each other. When he had flipped through 50 manuals, Zhao Feng suddenly realized something. Something's wrong. Zhao Feng's hand that was flipping through the manuals suddenly froze. Then he recalled the contents of the manuals that he had read before. Suddenly, the summary of the first page of the dozens of manuals appeared in his mind without missing a single word. This? Zhao Feng's heart shook, but it was quickly replaced by extreme joy. So, after merging with his left eye, Zhao Feng's memory greatly increased. It could be said that he had a photographic memory. Especially when he purposely activated his left eye, the contents that he scanned through would be imprinted in his mind, unforgettable and incomparably deep. Zhao Feng never would have thought that the legendary retentive memory would appear on him. In the Green Flower continent, there were many legends about geniuses, and photographic memory was one of them. But a normal photographic memory was just a good memory, being able to remember 80 to 90% of the contents after seeing it once. In comparison, Zhao Feng's photographic memory was much stronger. The contents that he had seen with his left eye would be imprinted in his mind, unforgettable for the rest of his life. With this ability in the martial arts library, Zhao Feng could bring a few more martial arts manuals out. Quick, quick, quick. Zhao Feng's face revealed a hint of craziness, as he quickly copied a martial arts manual that he had been interested in before. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. He was extremely focused as he quickly flipped through the martial arts manual in his hands. As long as his left eye scanned through the contents of the manual, no matter if it was words or images, he could instantly remember it. A martial arts manual that was tens of pages long was completely memorized by Zhao Feng in 20 breaths of time. Ha ha ha, photographic memory? That's great. Zhao Feng was extremely happy, and with an even crazier and faster speed, he scanned the other martial arts manuals. His actions naturally attracted the attention of the disciples in the first floor of the martial arts library. Is this guy crazy? Maybe it's because it's his first time in the second floor Xuanwu Pavilion, and he's too excited. The disciples noticed Zhao Feng's actions, and were slightly shocked as they shook their heads. Time passed quickly, 3/4 of the hour had already passed. Oh. Zhao Feng let out a long breath, his mind was tired, but he could not hide the excitement in his heart. Until now he had already stolen over 100 martial arts manuals from the martial arts library. These martial arts manuals were all middle-ranked martial arts, covering fist arts, palm arts, sword arts, breathing techniques, light footwork, defensive body training and many other aspects. Because of the frequent use of his left eye, Zhao Feng's mental energy was greatly depleted, and he could not take it anymore. Next he slowly walked around the first floor of the martial arts library, and his powerful left eye scanned every corner. Suddenly, Zhao Feng's left eye locked onto an old and moldy martial arts manual. The reason why he paid attention to this martial arts manual was because Zhao Feng felt that the material of this manual was different from normal martial arts manuals. Zhao Feng picked up the moldy martial arts manual, and saw 3 words written on it: lightly floating fairy. He flipped to the first page. Lightly floating fairy, high-class martial arts, allows the cultivator to be as light as a swallow, walk on snow without leaving a trace and float across rivers. When trained to the high level, the cultivator can create energy multiple times in the air, and can even fly for a short period of time. Requires one to be at the second rank of the martial path, and is extremely difficult to train. Combined with inner strength, the power is even greater. When trained to the highest level, no one under the 7th rank of the martial path will be able to match their speed. Zhao Feng originally thought that it was just a normal martial arts manual, but when he saw the words Second Life in the Air, and combined with inner strength, his eyes flashed. Second Life in the Air had already surpassed all middle-ranked martial arts, and most high-ranked martial arts manuals could not achieve this. Combined with inner strength, meant that this martial arts manual could be used by martial artists at the 4th rank of the martial path and above. The most terrifying part was the description at the end. When trained to the highest level, no one under the 7th rank of the martial path will be able to match their speed. How arrogant! Even some of the best martial arts would not dare to say something like this. Zhao Feng's eyes flashed, and without hesitation, he began to memorize the contents of Lightly Floating Fairy. He was a little surprised. Why was such a powerful martial arts manual placed at the bottom, as if no one was interested in it? Very quickly Zhao Feng found the reason. When the book was flipped to a quarter of the way, the words at the back started to become blurred. The main reason was that the pages were dirty and moldy due to the passage of time. In other words, this martial arts manual could only train the first quarter of the way. What a pity! Zhao Feng was very disappointed. However, he did not give up. He activated his left eye and focused on the blurred words. Using his left eye to its fullest, Zhao Feng could barely make out the words covered by the dirt. This was already more than 10 times the limit of a human's eyesight. After only reading 1 or 2 pages, Zhao Feng's mind was already exhausted. His left eye felt weak and he had used up too much mental energy. As long as I bring this martial arts manual back, I will be able to slowly decipher the rest of the contents. Thinking about this, Zhao Feng took Lightly Floating Fairy and walked out of the martial arts library. Lightly Floating Fairy? You chose this martial arts manual? The white-robed elder's eyebrows furrowed. Yes. Zhao Feng said respectfully. This martial arts manual has been around for thousands of years, and its mysteries far surpass that of a high-ranked martial arts manual. Saying this, the white-robed elder's tone changed. However, you can only read a quarter of the contents of this martial arts manual. More importantly, this martial arts manual is extremely difficult to train in. Even some of the geniuses in the clan have barely succeeded. Even if they succeed, it is only suitable for those below the 4th rank of the martial path, so its potential is limited. Finally, the white-robed elder warned him, "I advise you to change to another martial arts manual. Don't spend too much energy on it, or else you will never be able to break through the 4th rank of the martial path and become a true martial artist." "Thank you for your advice, but I have already made up my mind." Zhao Feng's face was calm. Watching Zhao Feng leave, the white-robed elder shook his head. Youngsters these days are always biting off more than they can chew. He did not believe that Zhao Feng would be able to learn lightly floating fairy. Even if it was an incomplete martial art manual, so what if he succeeded? After leaving the martial arts library, Zhao Feng returned home. Sitting on his bed, he closed his eyes, and the contents of over 100 martial arts manuals quickly appeared in his mind. Chapter 6. With so many martial arts manuals in his possession, Zhao Feng was excited like never before. He could not help but laugh out loud and only calmed down after a while. In the Cloud Country, a middle-ranked martial arts manual was worth a few hundred silvers, and Zhao Feng's monthly allowance was only 10 silvers. Of course, he could not sell the clan's secret martial arts manuals. Otherwise, according to the clan rules, he would be crippled of his cultivation and expelled from the clan. Zhao Feng had brought over 100 martial arts manuals from the martial arts library, and most of them were of high quality. Every single one of them had something special that moved him. It was not easy to pick out a few suitable ones from these manuals. The good thing was that the contents of these martial arts were all imprinted in his mind. Zhao Feng compared them one by one, and analyzed the most suitable martial arts. A single martial art could increase one's strength, but a combination of many martial arts could increase one's cultivation. In just half an hour, Zhao Feng had picked out 4 martial arts from the hundreds of martial arts manuals: lightly floating fairy, angry dragon fists, air-pushing formula, and continuous meteor arrows. Lightly floating fairy was without a doubt the highest-ranked martial arts. Moreover, Zhao Feng had hopes of deciphering the later parts of it. Next were angry dragon fists and air-pushing formula, as these two were compatible. Angry dragon fists was one of the best middle-ranked martial arts. It was extremely powerful and it could increase one's blood flow. It could suppress others with its explosive power. This was a peak middle-ranked fist technique, and its power was no weaker than some high-ranked martial arts. Zhao Feng valued Angry Dragon Fist's ability to increase one's blood flow. This was because a strong blood flow was the foundation and prerequisite for martial arts inner strength. Martial arts inner strength was used to break through to the 4th rank of the martial path, and it was used to measure a true martial artist. What was amazing was that air-pushing formula was a breathing technique that was close to a high-ranked martial artist. It could move the blood flow in a martial artist's body, increase one's physique, strength, and blood flow. Once it was mastered, one would have the chance to understand martial arts inner strength. The Angry Dragon Fists and the Chi-pushing formula are a perfect match. The two complement each other and their power increases greatly. At the very least, they are comparable to high-level cultivation techniques. Moreover, they can increase the chances of comprehending martial path inner strength. Zhao Feng was overjoyed. As for the continuous meteor arrow, it was a secret archery technique that was close to a high level. Why did he choose an archery secret manual? This was related to the ability of Zhao Feng's left eye. If I don't cultivate an archery skill, it would be a waste of my left eye's ability. Zhao Feng pursed his lips into a smile. It could be imagined that, with his left eye, he was definitely a natural godly archer, able to utilize the power of the archery secret manual to its limit. After confirming the cultivation method, Zhao Feng began to cultivate. The first thing he cultivated was the Chi-pushing formula. A strong Chi, blood, and physical strength were the foundation of cultivation. The stronger one's vitality was, the more powerful the Angry Dragon Fist that focused on close combat would be. Closing his eyes, Zhao Feng's mind merged with the contents of the Chi-pushing formula. After the time it takes for half an incense stick to burn, the Chi in his body began to slowly move and move. So easy? Zhao Feng was slightly surprised. According to the description in the Chi-pushing formula, a normal person would need at least 4 to 5 days to 10 to half a month to successfully move the Chi in their body. Could it be that I am a legendary cultivation genius? Zhao Feng thought for a bit, then decisively denied it. If he was a genius, then it wouldn't have been so hard for him to break through to the second rank of the martial path. He found that the mysterious fusion with his left eye had greatly increased his mental strength. His reaction, analysis, comprehension, and other abilities far exceeded that of a normal person. While cultivating the qi-pushing formula, Zhao Feng's left eye faintly made a ping-pang sound. At the same time, in the pitch-black space, the 2-foot-long light green halo began to spin faster. Half a day later, Zhao Feng had successfully cultivated the first level of the qi-pushing formula. His body excreted a faint smelly sweat. He felt that the qi in his body was at least 3 times stronger than before. Did I succeed? Zhao Feng couldn't believe it. The qi-pushing formula was split into 3 levels. Once he reached the peak of the 3rd level, there was hope for him to understand inner strength of the martial path. After another half a day, Zhao Feng had cultivated the qi-pushing formula to the peak of the 1st level, then his speed slowed down. He thought for a bit and started to cultivate the angry dragon fist that came with it. As expected, with the foundation of the qi-pushing formula, cultivating the angry dragon fist was twice the result with half the effort. In just half a day, Zhao Feng had grasped the basics of the angry dragon fist. The power of the angry dragon fist was extremely shocking, especially when combined with the qi-pushing formula. It could condense the qi and make it explode. With these 2 techniques combined, I can probably fight against the 3rd rank of the martial path with all my strength. Zhao Feng was speechless. What made him happy was that after cultivating the angry dragon fists, the qi-pushing formula broke through to the 2nd level, which also increased the cultivation of the former. The 2 complemented each other and achieved an unbelievable result. No wonder they were a perfect match. Zhao Feng rejoiced in his heart. In the next 4 to 5 days, Zhao Feng cultivated the angry dragon fists and the qi-pushing formula together, which could be said to be twice the result with half the effort. At this time, Zhao Feng was close to the peak of the 2nd rank of the martial path. It won't be long before I reach the peak of the 2nd rank of the martial path. I believe that the 3rd rank of the martial path is not far away. Zhao Feng was full of anticipation. The next day, Zhao Feng walked out of his house and went straight to the training grounds. This was because the other 2 martial arts manuals, lightly floating fairy and rapid meteor arrows, required more spacious places to train. Not long later, Zhao Feng arrived at the archery range at the corner of the training grounds. This was a place for practicing archery. So, an arrow pierced through the air and hit the bullseye of the target 10 meters away. Good archery. Brother Zhao Yu is indeed one of the top 3 archers in the clan. This arrow can probably pierce through the defense of a 3rd rank of the martial path and kill a beast with thick skin. Shouts came from the side. Amazing. Zhao Feng just happened to walk over and he couldn't help but exclaim. He knew the youth called Zhao Yu, who was a famous archer in the clan. So. Zhao Yu continuously pulled the bowstring and shot out 5 to 6 arrows at lightning speed. Finally, the arrows formed a ring around the bullseye of the target. Good. Amazing. The surrounding clan disciples all cheered. Zhao Feng didn't pay any more attention. He believed that as long as he put in a bit more effort, he would be able to become a master archer. He walked in front of an empty target, picked up a bow, squinted his eyes and took aim. Zhao Feng came to the archery range to test his talent in archery, and also to practice the peak of the middle rank rapid meteor arrow. The moment he picked up the bow, he attracted attention. Look. Who is that? Why does he look so unfamiliar? A clan disciple's eyes lit up. This kid is called Zhao Feng. He came from a branch family half a year ago. Not long after, he offended one of the top 3 outer disciples, Zhao Yijian. I heard that even his girl left him. There were a few clan disciples that recognized Zhao Feng. Branch family disciple? Let's make a bet on how many rings he can shoot. A few clan disciples looked at Zhao Feng with mockery. Even Zhao Yu, who was an expert in archery, was shocked. The art of archery requires talent and perseverance. Not everyone can succeed just because they want to. Zhao Yu was slightly arrogant as he glanced at Zhao Feng. Zhao Feng didn't care about these people. He slightly activated his left eye, and the target tens of meters away in his vision quickly became bigger. So, the bowstring trembled and the arrow flew through the air, barely hitting the target, then fell to the ground. Floated. Zhao Feng sweated. After all, it was his first time touching a bow and arrow. Ha! The spectating disciples rocked back and forth in laughter. Again. Zhao Feng was very calm. It was normal for him to miss the target when it was his first time shooting. Next, he purposely activated his left eye, focusing all his energy, and the tips from continuous meteor arrow merged into his mind. At this moment no one noticed on the surface of Zhao Feng's left eye, there was a faint green glow. So, the second arrow was shot out, accurately hitting the target, missing the bullseye by 1 ring. 9 rings. The field was silent. The smiles on the faces of the disciples who were laughing froze. Even Zhao Yu's eyebrows furrowed. 9 rings, this was the closest result to the bullseye. To be able to achieve such a result from tens of meters away, even for an experienced archer, it was not bad. Luck. Must be luck. That's right. A beginner can't shoot with such accuracy, he obviously missed the target. The disciples smiled again and continued to watch Zhao Feng. However, before they could finish their words, the third arrow flew through the air. Whoosh! The sharp whistling sound of the arrow flew tens of meters like lightning, hitting the target. Poof! It hit the bullseye. In that instant the field was dead silent. Including Zhao Yu, the disciples were dazed, their faces full of doubt. Not bad luck. Zhao Feng gave a faint smile. The corner of his mouth couldn't help but curl up. Reality proved that he did have an advantage in archery. What kind of monster is this guy? Most of the archers had weird expressions. Any archer would start off as a beginner, but it was their first time seeing someone as lucky as Zhao Feng. Shoot another arrow if you dare. Some of the clan's disciples said with displeasure. Yes. Shoot another arrow. Many people looked excited and shouted in unison. Zhao Feng originally wanted to leave, but these people didn't let him go. Many of them were at the 3rd rank of the martial path and many of them were older than him. Fine. Zhao Feng shrugged and picked up his bow again. Chapter 7. Helplessly, Zhao Feng could only pick up his bow and slowly pull back the bowstring. Look at this kid's posture, he's a newbie. If he can hit the bullseye again, I'll write my name backwards. The archers in the field were excited and looked at Zhao Feng with disdain. Zhao Yu, who had the best archery skills in the crowd, had a calm and confident expression. He said as if he was giving advice, "Archery, only practice makes perfect. Only through countless practice can one become a true archery master." His words made the nearby archers feel the same way and they all nodded their heads. Zhao Feng squinted his eyes, this time he didn't fully activate his left eye. If he fully activated his left eye, he would hit the bullseye again. Zhao Feng decided to stay low-key, so he only slightly activated his left eye's ability. At the same time, the contents of continuous meteor arrow in his mind merged into his mind and was used on his body. Every part of Zhao Feng's body, even his breathing, had some slight changes. These changes were not noticed by the people around him. As for Zhao Yu, who was an archery master, a sharp light flashed in his eyes. Shush! The bowstring vibrated and the arrow flew tens of meters in the blink of an eye like a meteor hitting the target. Bullseye. Another 10th ring. Zhao Feng was shocked. This time he didn't fully activate his left eye's ability, but only tried to use the techniques in continuous meteor arrow. He originally thought that it would be hard to get a good result, but who would have thought that he would hit the bullseye again? Sigh. He shook his head and sighed. This result caused the faces of the surrounding clan disciples to twitch violently. Bullseye again, what kind of monster is this guy? Bullseye twice in a row, how could he have such good luck? The archers all had weird expressions on their faces as they became more and more depressed. Okay, I'm done, I can go now. Zhao Feng patted his clothes, put down his bow and was about to leave. Looking at his back, the nearby archers all felt aggrieved and depressed. Kid, stop right there. A stern and cold voice came from behind. Zhao Feng stopped in his tracks and looked back. The person who spoke was none other than Zhao Yu. Zhao Yu's face was cold and his eyes were filled with rage. His aura of the 3rd rank of the martial path made everyone's heart sink. Qiyu was 17 or 18 years old, much older than Zhao Feng. Adding on his cultivation of the 3rd stage of the martial path, he looked even more powerful. The arrows have been shot. What else do you want? Zhao Feng looked indifferent. Even though Zhao Yu was strong and he wasn't confident that he could win, he didn't need to be afraid. You still dare to feign ignorance? Zhao Yu snorted coldly. You're definitely not a novice in the art of archery. How dare you deliberately come here to play tricks on us? As soon as he said this, the surrounding archers came to a realization. I was wondering where this brat got such good luck. Turns out he's pretending to be a pig to eat a tiger. Preposterous. How dare you make fun of us? The surrounding disciples believed Zhao Yu's words and scolded Zhao Feng with unfriendly expressions. Everyone calm down. This is indeed my first time shooting. Zhao Feng shook his head with a bitter smile. He really wasn't pretending to be a pig to eat a tiger. Even he didn't expect to get such a good result. Zhao Yu stared at him coldly and his eyes flashed. Even I was fooled by the first 2 arrows. But the third arrow, your technique and posture have clearly reached the level of an expert. You easily hit the bullseye twice from dozens of meters away. How can you be so lucky on your first shot? His words were reasonable. Even if Zhao Feng had 100 mouths, he wouldn't be able to explain it. What do you want? Zhao Feng's face turned cold and he didn't bother to explain. Hee brat, you can't leave so easily after playing us like this. The surrounding disciples of the Zhao clan were all rubbing their fists with malicious intent. In an instant, the archery range became the focus of attention and more people rushed over. Sister Yufei, it's very lively over there. Let's go and take a look. A few girls from the clan were also attracted by the commotion. Among these girls, the youngest was 12 or 13 years old, while the oldest was 15 or 16. One of them was a slender girl dressed in purple. She had black eyebrows and clear eyes. Her face was as delicate as porcelain, and her hair draped over her shoulders. She was incomparably beautiful. So beautiful? Who is she? A youth of the same age as Zhao Feng was dazed and couldn't move his eyes away. That's the rising genius of the clan, Zhao Yufei. Most of the disciples of the clan recognized the girl in purple. She's only 14 to 15 years old and she's already at the peak of the 3rd rank of the martial path. She's about to step into the 4th rank of the martial path and become a true martial artist. This Zhao Yufei is not only beautiful, but she's also very talented. Some of the youths retracted their gazes and felt ashamed of their inferiority. They didn't dare to look at Zhao Yufei. Not only was Zhao Yufei beautiful, she also had an elegant and refined temperament. Her beautiful eyes were clear and flawless, far better than ordinary girls. Even Zhao Yu's eyes lit up when he saw Zhao Yufei. It's her? Zhao Feng also knew Zhao Yufei. Zhao Yufei was a disciple from another branch family who came over half a year ago. Her cultivation was similar to Zhao Yijian's, but she was younger. It was hard to imagine that such a person could appear in the branch family and reach such a level despite the disadvantage of resources and martial arts. Perhaps this was what a genius was. What was beyond the reach of ordinary people was easily accomplished by geniuses. When Zhao Feng first saw Zhao Yufei, he felt that she was stunningly beautiful. As an ordinary youth of the same age, he was naturally attracted. But at that time, Zhao Feng knew that with his cultivation and status, he and Zhao Yufei were in 2 different worlds. Seeing Zhao Yufei come over, Zhao Yu and the others went up to greet her. Zhao Feng was very calm as he directly looked at Zhao Yufei. If it was before, Zhao Feng would feel inferior in front of a genius like Zhao Yufei and wouldn't even dare to look at her. But today he could calmly admire her. While looking at her, Zhao Feng's left eye unconsciously activated. Through his left eye, Zhao Yufei's slender figure was clearly displayed in front of Zhao Feng. Zhao Feng was given a fright upon inspecting it. Vaguely, Zhao Yufei's clothes became lighter and he could almost see her underwear and snow-white skin. Of course, his left eye couldn't see through everything. Even if it could, it would be very weak. It was only because of his superhuman eyesight that he could see things more clearly. The difference was that a normal person's eyesight could only see from afar, but Zhao Feng's eyesight could zoom in, as if he was looking at something from 0 distance. At a certain moment, Zhao Feng's left eye's ability was pushed to the extreme, and the faint green light in the dark space quickly spun. All of a sudden, Zhao Yufei's clothes and even her body became almost transparent in his field of vision. Zhao Feng's left eye saw a flow of blood and qi. Although it was a small stream, it was firm and powerful, and there was a faint purple aura around it. Zhao Yufei's talent is so terrifying. She's almost able to cultivate martial path inner strength. Zhao Feng was shocked and took a deep breath. In terms of age, the other was only 1 year older than him, but she already had such achievements. In the Green Flower continent, the majority of martial disciples were stuck at the 3rd rank of the martial path, unable to comprehend martial path inner strength, and attack the 4th rank of the martial path. But Zhao Yufei, at the age of 14 to 15, had already cultivated martial path inner strength, and it was only a matter of time before she became a true martial disciple. Although my left eye can't see through everything, it can sense blood and martial path inner strength very clearly. Zhao Feng's left eye twitched as he concluded. At this time, Zhao Yufei, who was the focus of everyone's attention, seemed to have sensed something, and her beautiful eyes turned to look at Zhao Feng. Zhao Feng didn't dodge and only stopped his left eye's ability. Zhao Yufei felt weird. She had a feeling that she had been stripped naked, and all her secrets were exposed. What happened over here? Zhao Yufei retracted her gaze and looked around. Sister Yufei, it's like this. Zhao Yu and the others added fuel to the fire, explaining the cause and effect of the matter. So it's like that. Zhao Yufei looked at Zhao Feng in surprise. Zhao Feng understood that under this situation he couldn't explain himself, so he didn't bother. Kid, your actions just now have caused everyone to be angry. I'll give you a chance to apologize to everyone. Zhao Yu said proudly. Apologize? I didn't do anything wrong, so why should I apologize? Zhao Feng curled his lips. As long as you apologize to us, this matter will be over. Zhao Yu said politely. In front of a beauty like Zhao Yufei, he naturally had to perform well. Apologize? Impossible. Zhao Feng wasn't afraid. Everything just now was just your speculation. As soon as he said that, many people, including Zhao Yufei, frowned. This Zhao Feng doesn't know how to read the situation. Zhao Yufei frowned slightly, and her impression of Zhao Feng was a little bad. Kid, you're good at quibbling. Zhao Yu didn't get angry but laughed. If you don't apologize, don't think about leaving. The nearby disciples surrounded Zhao Feng in a domineering manner. Bullying with numbers? Zhao Feng sneered and glanced at Zhao Yufei intentionally. The expressions of Zhao Yu and the others changed. In front of a genius beauty like Zhao Yufei, they naturally had to be polite, and bullying with numbers was not honorable. Good. Zhao Yu's eyes turned and he quickly came up with a plan. We won't bully with numbers. As long as you can beat me in archery, you don't have to apologize. That's right. Since we're both archers, let's talk with strength. Sister Yufei, you can be our witness. Everyone shouted in agreement. Zhao Yu laughed in his heart. This was really a plan to kill two birds with one stone. Through the archery competition, he would be able to make Zhao Feng apologize without losing face. Moreover, he could show off his archery skills in front of Zhao Yufei and maybe win her heart. Archery competition? Zhao Feng was a little helpless. All right, we'll talk with strength. Chapter 8. At this point, Zhao Feng had incurred the wrath of the crowd, so he might as well agree. Good. You have some guts. Zhao Yu was overjoyed that his plan had succeeded so easily. He had thought that Zhao Feng would deny it and there would be a fight, but he didn't expect the other to agree so readily. But thinking about it, if Zhao Feng lost in archery, he could just apologize and have a way out of this embarrassing situation. Sister Yufei, why don't you be the judge? Zhao Yu said to Zhao Yufei with a smile. In terms of talent and cultivation, Zhao Yufei was one of the best among the crowd, so she was indeed qualified. Okay. Zhao Yufei nodded but didn't show much interest. In her view, Zhao Yu was one of the top 3 sharpshooters in the clan, and Zhao Feng couldn't beat him. Soon an empty space was cleared in the archery field. Zhao Yu and Zhao Feng, each holding a bow, stood in the center of the field. There were dozens of disciples from the clan who were watching the show. Today, with Sister Yufei here, Zhao Yu will definitely show his trump card. Some archers were full of expectation. There was no suspense in the outcome of this duel. Rather than saying it was an archery competition, it was more like a solo performance by Zhao Yu. Come. Zhao Yu called a few youths to bring 4 targets. Soon the 4 targets were lined up in a straight line. The distance between each target was 10 meters. Zhao Feng was confused. He didn't know much about archery, and it was only today that he started to learn it. Since there are so many people here today, I will show my unique skill, Eagle Arrow Stream. Zhao Yu smiled. Eagle Arrow Stream? The surrounding juniors were all excited and expectant. Even Zhao Yufei showed a hint of interest. Under everyone's gaze, Zhao Yu walked up to the 4 targets. Since the 4 targets were all in a straight line according to a normal angle of view in archery, one could only hit the one in front. Zhao Yu took a deep breath and took out 4 arrows from his quiver. Was he going to? Everyone was shocked. At this moment, the longbow in Zhao Yu's hand was almost pulled into the shape of a full moon, slanting towards the sky. 4 arrows were placed on the bowstring at the same time. Many people sucked in a cold breath. In the next moment, whoosh, 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 4 arrows tore through the air and drew 4 sharp arcs in the void. They flew high into the sky and then, like eagles, swooped down. Buff, buff, buff. Almost at the same time, the 4 arrows accurately hit the bullseye of the 4 targets. Oh my God! Everyone on the scene was shocked and exclaimed in surprise. So these arrows didn't fly in a straight line, but in an arc due to the influence of gravity, they dropped down and hit the targets. Zhao Feng's left eye saw the trajectory of the 4 arrows clearly. The final result shocked him to his core. Eagle Arrow Stream. Everyone was shocked and couldn't calm down for a long time. What great archery! Zhao Yufei's eyes were filled with surprise. I've made a fool of myself. Zhao Yu saw Zhao Yufei's expression and was secretly delighted. Kid, it's your turn. After Zhao Yu finished his demonstration, everyone looked at Zhao Feng with mockery and pity. No one believed that Zhao Feng's archery could be compared to Zhao Yu's. Let me think. Zhao Feng picked up the bow and fused the contents of Rapid Meteor Arrow into his mind. He soon came to a conclusion. If he wanted to win against Zhao Yu with archery, he would have to learn Rapid Meteor Arrow in a few days to have a chance. Since that was the case, he couldn't win against Zhao Yu using normal methods. Zhao Feng's gaze swept across the sky and the archery field. He soon came to a decision. Alright, I'm going to start. Zhao Feng slowly took out an arrow from his quiver. The first arrow. He pulled the bowstring and casually shot it into the sky. What is he doing? Everyone was stunned. However, at the next moment, a shrill scream came from the sky. A black shadow fell from the sky. Everyone took a closer look and was shocked. It was actually a wild goose. This kid's archery is not bad. He can easily shoot down a bird in the sky. Child's play. Zhao Yu's face was filled with disdain. Indeed, Zhao Feng's performance was not bad. However, compared to his eagle arrow style, it was not just one level lower. Zhao Feng consecutively shot out another 2 arrows. Every time he shot an arrow, he would successfully kill a sparrow, oriole, and other birds. Kid, stop embarrassing yourself here. Quickly admit defeat and apologize. An archer was impatient. The feeling is almost there. Zhao Feng ignored him. Through the practice earlier, he had found the feeling. Then he took a deep breath and used his left eye to capture the air. At that moment, his left eye faintly flashed with a faint green luster. So, another arrow shadow tore through the air at the speed of lightning. Bang! Another black shadow fell from the sky. Zhao Yu sneered without saying a word. But soon someone exclaimed. Oh my god! This arrow actually shot down 2 sparrows. An archer exclaimed. Hearing this, Zhao Yu looked and indeed found that the arrow had pierced through the bodies of 2 sparrows at once, killing 2 birds with 1 stone. Many people exclaimed. Zhao Yu's heart skipped a beat. He didn't expect Zhao Feng to have such high archery skills. Killing 2 birds with 1 stone belonged to the legendary archery skill. Normal archers couldn't do it. Even Zhao Yu didn't have much confidence. It depended on luck. Sparrows are small in size, far away from each other and flying in the air. The target is always in a moving state. To be able to kill 2 sparrows with 1 arrow, this is comparable to Qi Yu's eagle arrow style. An archer said. This is just the appetizer. Zhao Feng smiled. Hearing this, everyone was shocked. Could it be that Zhao Feng had an even better archery skill? Zhao Feng didn't explain. He slowly pulled the bow and shot at a target 50 meters away. What did this mean? Everyone didn't understand. 50 meters was equivalent to 100 steps. Hitting the target within 100 steps, even if it hit the bull's eye, was nothing compared to eagle arrow style and killing 2 birds with 1 stone. Swoosh! Zhao Feng shot an arrow, piercing through the air and hit the target 50 meters away. Bang! The target shook slightly, but the arrow didn't hit the bull's eye. It was even at the edge of the target. Sweat appeared on Zhao Feng's forehead as he heaved a sigh of relief. Haha, this arrow almost missed the target. Some of the younger brothers in the audience laughed out loud. Zhao Yu couldn't help but feel happy. Could it be that Zhao Feng's arrow missed? Many people hesitated and looked at Zhao Feng, but the latter looked calm. As the notary, Zhao Yufei showed a look of inquiry. She felt that Zhao Feng's arrow wasn't that simple. You guys will know when you see it. Zhao Feng said confidently. Hearing this, everyone walked to the front of the target. On the edge of the target, there was an arrow that was still trembling slightly. Zhao Feng let an archer pull the arrow out. Everyone stared at the arrow. Very quickly the arrow was pulled out. At the arrowhead, there was a black corpse the size of a pea, with faint traces of blood. What is this? Someone was stunned. Oh my god, it's a fly. A fly. A family disciple exclaimed in shock. What? Many of the archers present had their eyes protruding out, their eyes filled with shock. Oh my god. Killing a fly from 100 steps away, how did he do it? Trying to see a fly from 100 steps away is extremely difficult. Not to mention the fly was flying in the air without any pattern. The archery range was in an uproar. How is this possible? Zhao Yu's face was pale, staring at the fly's corpse. He was in a daze. If it was killing 2 birds with 1 stone, he could still be lucky, but to kill a tiny fly from 100 steps away he couldn't do it. The fly's target was too small, a normal person's eyes couldn't see it clearly from 100 steps away. The battle of archery skills quickly came to an end. Who was stronger and who was weaker was clear. The winner of this archery competition is Zhao Feng. Zhao Yufei recovered from her shock, looking at Zhao Feng with a complicated expression. This was the first time she looked at Zhao Feng directly. The youth in her vision was calm and composed, with a faint smile on his face. He had a charm that far surpassed his peers. "Can I leave now?" Zhao Feng walked out, minding his own business. The people nearby very consciously made way for him. Most of the family disciples in the archery range practiced archery. Zhao Feng's archery skills had convinced them. Even Zhao Yu had nothing to say. Passing through the crowd and walking out of the archery range, Zhao Feng let out a long breath. Today's trip to the archery range, although there were some twists and turns, he had gained a lot. Just as Zhao Feng walked out of the archery range. "Ah! Zhao Feng, I finally found you." A wild and unrestrained laughter rang out. As soon as he finished speaking, 3 youths came over, blocking Zhao Feng's path. The leader was a youth in black with thick eyebrows and tiger-like eyes, revealing a look of success. Was Zhao Kun. "Bastard, I lost to you last time. This time, I'll make you accept your defeat and beg for mercy." Zhao Kun licked his lips, a hint of viciousness flashing in his eyes. This time he came to find Zhao Feng, not only to defeat him fair and square, but he also wanted to teach him a lesson. This was because he had been defeated by Zhao Feng in one move, which was a great humiliation to him. Zhao Feng noticed that Zhao Kun had brought 2 helpers, both of whom were in the second rank of the martial path. They were watching him from left and right, preventing him from escaping. "Sister Yuhan, that Zhao Feng seems to be in trouble," a girl beside Zhao Yufei said. At this moment, many people in the archery range noticed the abnormality. Zhao Yu, who had lost in the archery competition, had a gloating expression on his face. However, in the face of trouble, Zhao Feng was not afraid and said straightforwardly, "Come." Chapter 9. Make your move. Zhao Kun couldn't believe his ears. Was this still the Zhao Feng from his memories? The moment his eyes locked onto Zhao Feng, his expression changed and he coldly laughed. "What did I say? So you've broken through to the second rank of the martial path? If that's all you've got, then you can kneel and beg for mercy." Zhao Feng's cultivation of the second rank of the martial path only made Zhao Kun slightly surprised, but it didn't affect his plan at all. After all, Zhao Feng had just broken through to the second rank of the martial path not long ago, while he had already broken through for 2 years and reached the peak of the second rank. Moreover, high-ranked martial arts were his greatest support. "Stop talking nonsense, my time is limited," Zhao Feng coldly said. "Kid, don't be arrogant." Zhao Kun was enraged and with a hoo, his limbs and body changed into a strange position, like a poisonous snake, jumping up and biting towards Zhao Feng's lower body. In the blink of an eye, Zhao Kun activated the 13 changes of the poisonous snake. Whether it was speed or explosiveness, it far exceeded the previous time. Zhao Kun has probably trained the first 3 changes of the 13 changes of the poisonous snake to the low level. Zhao Yuhan, who was in the archery range, had a look of surprise on her face. As a genius of the family, she had been nurtured by the family, so she had naturally trained in high-ranked martial arts. The higher the rank of the martial art, the harder it was to train in. Once a high-ranked martial art was trained to the low level, it would be able to suppress the high level of a normal middle-ranked martial art. What a fast speed! It's at least 50% stronger than before. Zhao Feng was also shocked by Zhao Kun's actions, but luckily his reaction was fast enough, and his left eye saw the trajectory of Zhao Kun's attack. Raging dragon flipping the river. Zhao Feng shouted and his legs fiercely squatted down. Under the push of the air-pushing breathing technique, the blood and qi in his body gathered in his arms, increasing his strength for the first time. Zhao Kun suddenly realized that his opponent's qi and blood had increased dramatically, and his aura had increased tremendously. What was even more astonishing was that when Zhao Feng used Raging Dragon flipping the river, his qi and blood once again condensed and erupted between his fists, resulting in a second amplification. Enraged Dragon Fist, third move, Enraged Dragon flipping the river. In that instant, Zhao Feng seemed to have transformed into an enraged dragon, his aura violent like thunder, and his fists transformed into a ball of afterimages that smashed down fiercely. Bang! The first punch caused Zhao Kun's body to tremble. His blood and qi were in turmoil and he almost vomited blood. The 13 transformations of the viper, that he practiced emphasized flexibility and craftiness. It wasn't good at fighting head-on. However, Zhao Feng's fist seemed to know his attack trajectory and accurately hit his weak spot. Bang bang bang, the shadows of the fists swayed, accompanied by violent vibrations. With the help of the air-pushing art, Zhao Feng was able to display the Angry Dragon Fist's third move, Angry Dragon Flipping the River, to an astonishing degree. Ah! Zhao Kun was smashed into the ground by the powerful force. He knelt on the ground, his arms were numb, and there was a trace of blood at the corner of his mouth. You've lost. Zhao Feng's breathing was slightly hurried as he retreated from the ring. During the battle, he used his left eye to clearly see the trajectory of Zhao Kun's attacks, and he was able to see the flaws in his opponent's moves. It was obvious that Zhao Kun's high-ranked martial technique was not perfected yet. What surprised Zhao Feng the most was that the power of Angry Dragon Fist combined with air-pushing art was beyond his imagination. It could already challenge a normal third-rank martial artist. How is this possible? I train in a high-ranked martial technique. Zhao Kun crawled up from the ground and roared. The entire process of the two fighting only took 2 breaths of time. One move. Zhao Kun lost. In the archery range, the Zhao family disciples were all dumbfounded. Although it was a fight of the same rank, it was too exaggerated to win in one move. Especially when the one who lost trained in a high-ranked martial technique. As she watched Zhao Feng leave, Zhao Yuhan mumbled, I know about Angry Dragon Fist, it is a famous fist technique in the family. It is almost comparable to a high-ranked martial technique, but it is very difficult to train. He seems to have trained in another martial technique, and when combined with Angry Dragon Fist, its power almost doubled. Sister Yuhan, Zhao Kun's cultivation is higher than Zhao Feng's, and he even trained in a high-ranked martial technique. How could he lose? A girl beside her asked. Moves are dead but people are alive. Zhao Kun's 13 changes of the poisonous snake is very rigid, and he only learned 3 moves. He is much weaker than his brother, Zhao Qian. In terms of battle awareness he is not as good as Zhao Feng. Zhao Yuhan paused for a moment and her eyes flashed. Moreover, Zhao Feng trained 2 sets of martial techniques that are close to a high-ranked martial technique to a higher level. With the combination his strength is higher than Zhao Kun. After listening to Zhao Yuhan's analysis, the girl beside her exclaimed, Zhao Feng is so powerful. I heard that Zhao Kun's brother, Zhao Qian, is outstanding in the family, and is ranked top 5 among the outer disciples. I wonder if he will avenge his brother. What a lot of trouble. Zhao Feng shook his head and left the training ground. He came to an open forest and orchard in the family. The reason he came here was naturally to train in the most mysterious movement technique in his possession, lightly floating fairy. Out of the hundreds of martial arts manuals that Zhao Feng had brought out from the martial arts library, lightly floating fairy was undoubtedly the highest ranked. The only downside was that it was incomplete, and it was extremely difficult to train. The combination of Angry Dragon Fists and air-pushing formula is already so powerful. I wonder what the higher-ranked lightly floating fairy would be like. Zhao Feng was looking forward to it. On that day he started to practice lightly floating fairy. When he concentrated on training, the light green halo in his left eye started to spin faster. Zhao Feng felt that some of the techniques of lightly floating fairy were deeply engraved in his mind. Although it was not as easy as Angry Dragon Fists and air-pushing formula, it was still quite smooth. The difficulty of lightly floating fairy is at least 2 to 3 times more difficult than a peak middle-ranked martial technique. Zhao Feng came to a conclusion after comparing. Of course, this level of difficulty did not stump him. In just 2 to 3 days, Zhao Feng had a basic understanding of the first quarter of lightly floating fairy. In a total of 6 days, he had a basic understanding of the first quarter of lightly floating fairy, reaching the beginner realm. Generally speaking, martial techniques that amplified one's might could be divided into 4 stages. Initial perfection, small perfection, great perfection, and peak. Initial mastery, 30% mastery. Initial mastery, 50% of it. Greater mastery, 70% mastery. The peak realm was more than 90% complete. For example, Zhao Feng had easily trained Angry Dragon Fists to the advanced. Lightly floating fairy, on the other hand, had only reached the beginner realm in the same amount of time, and it was only a quarter of the contents. So. Zhao Feng leapt, his body as light as a swallow flying 4 to 5 meters in the air. So. Using the tips of his feet as leverage on the branches of the trees, he felt as if he was gliding in the air. In that instant, Zhao Feng seemed to have transformed into a swallow flying through the forest. This lightly floating fairy is only at the beginner realm, but it is already far better than the advanced realm of a normal middle-ranked martial technique. Zhao Feng was delighted. From this, it could be seen that the level of lightly floating fairy was definitely higher than a high-ranked martial technique. In addition to training, Zhao Feng did not forget to spend time to slowly decipher the last 3/4 of lightly floating fairy. However, deciphering the latter half of the contents took a huge toll on Zhao Feng's mental strength. Ever since leaving the martial arts library, Zhao Feng would spend time deciphering the contents every day. Now he had deciphered a third of the last 3/4 of the contents. In other words, he had already deciphered half of the contents of lightly floating fairy. After lightly floating fairy reached the beginner realm, Zhao Feng did not put too much effort into it. Instead, he started to train Angry Dragon Fists and Air Pushing Manual. This was because he understood that no matter how high the level of lightly floating fairy was, it was only a martial technique that could make one's body lighter. After training in lightly floating fairy, and then switching to Angry Dragon Fists and Air Pushing Manual, Zhao Feng found that it was much easier and smoother. In just 2 days' time, Air Pushing Manual had reached the 3rd level. Angry Dragon Fist was almost at its peak. At this moment, Zhao Feng closed his eyes and felt the blood coursing through his body. Compared to when he had just reached the 2nd rank, his body was at least twice as strong. In the dimension of his left eye, the light green whirlpool extended from 2 feet to 2.5 feet. Looks like I have already reached the peak of the 2nd rank. Just one more step and I will be able to reach the 3rd rank. Zhao Feng took a deep breath and suppressed the excitement in his heart. It had only been half a month since he had reached the 2nd rank. This speed was too shocking. Of course, what surprised him the most was that Air Pushing Manual had reached the 3rd level. This was because as long as Air Pushing Manual reached the 3rd level, there would be a chance to understand Martial Path Inner Strength. That was the key to breaking through to the 4th rank and becoming a true martial artist. Zhao Feng did not expect that he would reach the 3rd level of Air Pushing Manual so quickly. This also caused his blood to be much stronger than those of the 2nd rank. It was now comparable to those of the 3rd rank. In just half a month, Zhao Feng's strength had increased by 2-fold. This was all because he had merged with the mysterious eye half a month ago. Zhao Feng believed that his mediocre fate had quietly changed. That night, Zhao Feng started to plan his life. His first goal was the family sparring competition in half a month's time. He had to win it. This was a chance for him to make a name for himself. At that time he would defeat Zhao Yijin fair and square, and compete with the true geniuses of Sunfeather City. The change in my left eye has given me a strong ability to learn. Now the only difference between me and the geniuses of the family is training resources. Zhao Feng's eyes flashed as he analyzed the situation in his mind. Ever since merging with his left eye, his mental energy had greatly increased. He had become much calmer, and his analysis ability was much better than before. The problem now was how could he obtain training resources? Although Zhao Feng's training speed was fast, and he had reached the peak of the 2nd rank, there was still a big obstacle to break through. If he had the help of sufficient cultivation resources, this obstruction could be completely ignored. Got it? Zhao Feng's eyes flashed as he had an idea. A smile appeared on his face. He was confident and calm. Chapter 10. Late at night. Zhao family in a tall and luxurious courtyard. Brother, you have to stand up for me. That Zhao Feng is just a measly branch family disciple, but he made me lose face in front of everyone. Zhao Kun gritted his teeth, his eyes filled with hatred. Recently he had lost to a branch family disciple twice, and he didn't even have the face to go out. Trash. On the cattail hassock in the middle of the room sat a skinny young man with short hair like a cheetah. The short-haired young man looked somewhat similar to Zhao Kun, but his charm and temperament were cold and decisive, straightforward and agile. He was Zhao Kun's brother, Zhao Qian. Brother, I'm begging you. I must vent my anger. Zhao Kun was perturbed, filled with fear and hatred. He had always been afraid of this brother of his. Ever since he was young, his brother, Zhao Qian, had always bullied him. What made him feel the most helpless was that Zhao Qian always suppressed him. Today, Zhao Qian had already reached the peak of the 3rd rank of the martial path, and he had trained the 13 changes of the poisonous snake to the 6th change. His strength was enough to be ranked in the top 5 of the outer disciples. Even 3 to 5 Zhao Kuns wouldn't be his brother's opponent. The next morning, Zhao Feng woke up early and he first practiced Angry Dragon Fists and Pushing Formula. These 2 martial arts techniques could be considered Zhao Feng's main cultivation techniques. The 3rd rank of the martial path is still a distance away. Zhao Feng practiced for an hour, and according to the plan he made last night, he went to the family's accounting room. According to the rules, Zhao Feng received 10 pieces of silver every month from the clan. I haven't received this month's money yet. Zhao Feng came to the family's accounting room. Zhao Feng, second rank of the martial path, branch family disciple, 20 silver. The accountant said expressionlessly. 20 silver? Zhao Feng took the silver and nodded in thanks. After reaching the second rank of the martial path, his monthly allowance had doubled. However, he understood that 20 taels of silver per month was enough for an ordinary person to live a carefree life. But for martial arts cultivators, it was just a drop in the bucket. Some of the precious medicinal herbs used to speed up one's cultivation and break through to the next realm could easily cost up to 1,000 taels of silver. The children of those rich families could casually consume 1 or 2 precious medicinal herbs, which was equivalent to the income of ordinary children for decades. 20 taels of silver. Zhao Feng took a deep breath, took the only 20 taels of silver he had with him, and left the Zhao clan's territory heading towards the Sun Feather City's market. If it was in the past, he would have given his monthly allowance to his parents as soon as he got it to help with the family's expenses. But this time he didn't do that. Instead, he took the 20 taels of silver and left alone. Not long after, Zhao Feng entered Sun Feather City's largest trading market. In a weapon shop in the city. Shopkeeper, how much is this heavy iron bow? Zhao Feng had been looking for a long time in the weapon shop, and he had finally found this heavy iron bow. Heavy iron bow, strong piercing power, effective killing range of 150 meters. 20 taels of silver. The shopkeeper said with a polite smile. He saw the Zhao clan symbol on Zhao Feng's clothes. In Sun Feather City, the Zhao family, Xian family, and Qiu family were known as the 3 great families. Within 1,000 miles of Sun Feather City, their influence was monstrous. 20 taels of silver? Zhao Feng furrowed his eyebrows and said in a low voice, "Can you make it cheaper?" The shopkeeper smiled. "How about this? I'll give you the lowest price, 18 taels of silver." 15 taels of silver. I'm short on money, but when I have money in the future, I'll pay you back double. Zhao Feng said straightforwardly, his eyes filled with sincerity. 15 taels of silver? I'm afraid that's too little, there's no room for profit at all. The shopkeeper seemed to be in a difficult position, but seeing Zhao Feng's sincerity, he gritted his teeth. All right, this shop is under the Zhao family's name anyway, I hope you'll keep your word. Thank you. Zhao Feng revealed a look of gratitude. He didn't expect that this shop was under the Zhao family's name. Soon Zhao Feng bought the heavy iron bow for 15 taels of silver. Then he used the remaining 5 taels of silver to buy a dozen arrows, a bottle of poison and some food. Like this, Zhao Feng was penniless. I shouldn't fail. Zhao Feng mumbled to himself, and immediately left Sun Feather City. As soon as he left Sun Feather City, Zhao Feng used lightly floating ferry to travel, and his speed was much faster than a wild horse. Using the time he took to travel, he further comprehended lightly floating ferry. 2 hours later, Zhao Feng finally arrived at his destination, Sky Cloud Forest. The Sky Cloud Forest was the largest primeval forest in the Cloud Country. It even spanned across more than a dozen countries. As the largest forest in the surrounding countries, there were many dangerous wild beasts in the Sky Cloud Forest. Just a little deeper, there were often traces of higher-ranked, fierce beasts. Fierce beasts were different from wild beasts. They were influenced by the energy of heaven and earth, and gradually turned into monsters. Their strength could be said to be terrifying. Some of the stronger fierce beasts could even destroy villages. Only true martial artists could fight against them. Zhao Feng didn't come to Sky Cloud Forest to find fierce beasts. He hadn't reached the point where he was tired of living. His goal was simple: to hunt and earn money. In Sky Cloud Forest there were some strong wild beasts, and their fur and body parts were worth a lot of money. For example, an adult brown bear could be worth 200 to 300 taels of silver. However, the combat power of an adult brown bear far exceeded that of an ordinary second-rank martial artist. Generally, only a third-rank martial artist would have the confidence to defeat it. Of course, Zhao Feng's target was not a brown bear or a large wild beast. Although large wild beasts are worth a lot of money, they are too heavy. I can't carry more than a few at a time. Zhao Feng already had a plan in mind as he entered the Sky Cloud Forest. His figure flashed, and like a swallow, he leapt onto a tree branch and used the force to fly. Moments later, Zhao Feng leapt onto an ancient tree that was over 100 meters tall. This ancient tree was much taller than the surrounding trees, and it gave off a feeling of being able to look down from above. If it wasn't for the fact that he had practiced lightly floating fairy, Zhao Feng would have been scared witless. Standing on the ancient tree, Zhao Feng's left eye began to scan the surrounding forest. Whoosh. In the next instant, his left eye entered a supervision state. Within a 5 or 6 mile radius, he could see everything as small as an ant on a tree. Zhao Feng first had to determine if there were any dangerous wild beasts nearby, or even fierce beasts. Not long later, Zhao Feng had a clear understanding of the situation within a 5 or 6 mile radius. There were at least 20 wild beasts that could pose a threat to him, and one of them was nearby, but there were no fierce beasts nearby. It's starting. Zhao Feng took a deep breath, and slowly drew the heavy iron bow in his hand. Whoosh! With a shake of the bowstring, the sharp arrow pierced through the air, traversing 100 meters with unerring accuracy as it pierced a venomous gold-spotted snake that was 4 to 5 meters long. The golden-spotted viper leaped up and spat out its tongue. It was ferocious and bloody. However, Zhao Feng's arrow was extremely accurate, and it hit its weak spot. The golden-spotted snake struggled for a bit and then died. The golden-spotted snake's poison is fatal, and it can threaten the life of a martial disciple of the 3rd rank of the martial path. Zhao Feng let out a sigh of relief, and his palms were covered in sweat. If it was a head-on battle, the golden-spotted snake's speed was extremely fast, and its poison was fatal. However, Zhao Feng had also gained a lot. The golden-spotted snake's skin, fangs, and gallbladders were all very valuable. Just this golden-spotted snake alone could bring Zhao Feng 300 to 400 silvers, and it was even more valuable than normal wild beasts. After killing the golden-spotted snake, Zhao Feng used his left eye to look for a new target. Chirp! At a certain moment, Zhao Feng heard a sharp chirp in the air. An iron beak eagle with a wingspan of a meter flashed. With a flash of silver light, it flew over the forest and easily killed a wolf that was comparable to the 2nd rank of the martial path. Zhao Feng's expression was solemn. That iron beak eagle was known as the metal pecker eagle, and it was famous in the sky cloud forest. Its battle prowess surpassed that of a normal cultivator of the 2nd rank of the martial path, and it had almost no natural enemies. The metal pecker eagle's speed is fast, its feathers are like iron, and its defense is also strong. It is almost a fierce beast, and killing one of them would be worth 700 to 800 silvers. Zhao Feng thought to this point, and he activated his left eye to the extreme, locking onto the metal pecker eagle. This time he took out an arrow covered in poison. Creak. The heavy iron bow was pulled by Zhao Feng. Chapter 11. Whoosh! An afterimage of an arrow pierced through the air, bringing with it a piercing screech as it flew toward the metal pecker eagle that was soaring in the sky like a bolt of lightning. This arrow contained the supervision of Zhao Feng's left eye, as well as his understanding of the continuous meteor arrow. Chirp! A sharp cry filled with anger came from the sky. The metal pecker eagle had a poisonous arrow in its abdomen, and fresh blood dyed its feathers red as it charged towards Zhao Feng. Not good. Zhao Feng's expression changed, and he immediately used lightly floating fairy and dove into the dense forest below. Although Zhao Feng's arrow had hit its target, it did not hit its vitals. The metal pecker eagle's reaction speed, flying speed, and defense were all much higher than normal wild beasts. It could be considered a fierce beast. Zhao Feng's arrow did not cause any fatal damage to it. Ting-ting. Zhao Feng's body was like a swallow, and he was as agile as a monkey. His left eye did not forget to lock onto the metal pecker eagle. Whoosh! A moment later, another arrow shot through the air. This time the arrow pierced through the metal pecker eagle's throat, but it did not pierce through. The throat is usually a vital part of wild beasts, but this metal pecker eagle's defense is really terrifying. Zhao Feng dragged on for a moment, and the metal pecker eagle fell to the ground with a miserable cry. The 2 arrows that Zhao Feng shot had been coated with poison, and the 2nd arrow had hit its vitals. At this time the metal pecker eagle had died from the poison. Zhao Feng let out a breath of relief, and his eyes were filled with joy. Killing the metal pecker eagle would give him 700 to 800 silver. Including the golden mottled snake that he had killed, Zhao Feng's net worth was over 1,000 silver. This was a fortune that he had never had in his life. This amount of silver is probably not enough for me to buy precious herbs and break through to the 3rd rank of the martial path. Zhao Feng suppressed his excitement and quickly regained his composure. For the next 3 days, Zhao Feng's figure shuttled through the air above the sky cloud forest. Every time Zhao Feng pulled the bowstring, it would be accompanied by the screams of wild beasts and birds. 5 poison centipede, extremely poisonous. It can be used to brew medicinal wine to strengthen one's body. Worth 200 silver taels. Green Wind Eagle, strength equivalent to the peak of the 3rd rank of the martial path, worth 900 silvers. Black Spotted Boar, strength close to the 3rd rank of the martial path, worth 400 silver. In order to hunt more beasts and earn more money, Zhao Feng used lightly floating fairy and rapid meteor arrow to the fullest. After a few days of hard work, the first half of lightly floating fairy had been cultivated by Zhao Feng to the initial realm. His current speed probably far exceeded that of a 3rd-rank martial disciple in the clan, and was even close to that of a 4th-rank martial disciple. He had also effortlessly cultivated consecutive meteor arrow to mastery, and he was even close to the peak. Zhao Feng couldn't help but sigh. He was a natural-born archer. Now, if he were to deal with the metal pecker eagle again, he would only need one arrow to hit its vitals. Moreover, the lethality of the arrow would greatly increase, and he would be able to kill it in one shot. In these 3 days he had also gained a lot. He had killed 2 metal pecker eagles as well as 7 or 8 other types of beasts. The materials I have now should be worth around 3,000 to 4,000 silver taels. Zhao Feng said as he tidied up the 2 large bags, his face full of satisfaction. The targets he hunted had a special characteristic. They weren't too big but they were extremely dangerous. The difficulty of hunting them was high, so the value of their meat was also high. So far, Zhao Feng was satisfied with his harvest, so he prepared to return. On the way back he continued to use his left eye to search for his prey. After all, in the depths of the forest, his vision was limited, so he couldn't guarantee that he wouldn't miss a target. Roar! At this moment, from the north of the sky cloud forest came the roar of a tiger. That roar caused Zhao Feng's blood to tremble and his eardrums to hurt. The wind howled and sand flew everywhere. What kind of beast is this? How can it be so powerful? Zhao Feng was shocked. He quickly activated his left eye, and his vision traversed 4 to 5 miles in an instant. He saw a 4 to 5 meter long azure-headed fiend tiger. The azure-headed fiend tiger was almost half the size of an ordinary tiger, and its body emitted a terrifying killing intent. Its roar shook the surrounding forest for 5 kilometers, causing countless creatures to tremble. Run! This Tiger King has already become a deadly beast, and its strength is comparable to the 4th rank of the martial path. 5 to 6 youths of the 2nd to 3rd rank of the martial path ran away in panic. Everyone run! The leader was a youth with a scar on his face. He looked to be around 15 to 16 years old, and his cultivation had reached the peak of the 3rd rank of the martial path. He held a long blade in his hand and with a light slash, he cut a large tree in half, slightly stopping the Tiger King. The Tiger King waved its claws and the tree was smashed into pieces. The strength of a deadly beast is indeed terrifying. Zhao Feng's heart skipped a beat. Once a wild beast became a deadly beast, one would need at least a martial artist of the 4th rank of the martial path to be able to fight it. The power of the Tiger King's claws could even kill 2 or 3 Zhao Fengs combined. Xian Fei, watch out, a few of the youths exclaimed in surprise. The green-headed Tiger King chased after the strongest scarred youth, who was also the Xian Fei they were talking about. Xian? Could they be disciples of the Xian family, one of the 3 big families of the Sun Feather City? Zhao Feng was shocked, but when he saw the symbols on the clothes of the youths, he immediately got the answer. Rumble, wherever the Tiger King passed, the trees would fall and everything in its way would be smashed into pieces. If it was a normal martial disciple they would have died already. However, Zhao Feng found that Xian Fei was terrifyingly strong. Not only did he cultivate a high-ranked blade skill, but he also had a high-ranked movement skill. This Xian Fei chopped down a tree that needed 2 people to wrap their arms around. His strength is double that of a normal 3rd-rank martial path cultivator. He probably doesn't lose to the Zhao sect's Zhao Yijian. Zhao Feng was speechless. Save Xian Fei. 2 of the other disciples of the Xian family took out their bows and attacked the tiger from afar. However, their attacks could only distract the green-headed fiend tiger. The tiger's defense was 2 or 3 times stronger than the metal pecker eagles. Attacks from those below the 4th rank of the martial path were like tickles to it. If I can successfully kill the Tiger King, it'll be worth 20 to 30,000 silver, which is equivalent to me killing dozens of wild beasts. Zhao Feng's eyes flashed as he made a bold decision. Ding, ding. He immediately used lightly floating fairy and jumped from tree to tree as he approached the scene of the battle. When Zhao Feng arrived, the 5 disciples of the Xian family were in danger under the Tiger King's attack. Wind-splitting blade. A cold light flashed in Xan Fei's eyes, and his long saber struck out like a thunderbolt. The wind whistled sharply, and it fiercely hit the forehead of the green-headed spirit tiger. What a terrifying blade! Zhao Feng was a few hundred meters away and his left eye locked onto the process of the blade. The power of the blade could instantly kill 2 normal third-rank cultivators. Even if it was him, he wouldn't be able to block it. He could also feel a faint green aura moving within Xan Fei's body. It was a sign that he was about to finish cultivating his inner strength. Peng! The blade cut into the tiger by half an inch and a huge force sent Xan Fei flying, spitting out a mouthful of blood. The power of that blade was close to that of a true 4th-rank cultivator, but it still managed to injure a fierce beast. Roar! The Tiger King roared and pounced towards Xan Fei at an even faster speed. Xan Fei was a quasi-martial artist after all, so he borrowed the force of the attack to use a high-level movement technique to dodge the attack. However, he had used up a lot of energy and was in danger under the counterattack of the Tiger King. Wind-splitting blade. Xan Fei gathered all the blood in his body and used the same blade again, leaving another bloody mark on the Tiger King's forehead. His body was sent flying again and he spat out a mouthful of blood as he leaned against a tree. Brr. The Tiger King opened its mouth and pounced towards Xan Fei. The latter was exhausted and couldn't dodge. Xan Fei. The disciples of the Xan family shouted as they saw Xan Fei about to be bitten. Shush! Suddenly, a shadow of an arrow pierced through the air, passing through the gaps between the branches and leaves, accurately piercing the green-headed Tiger King. Roar! The Tiger King let out a mournful roar. In an instant, the wind howled within a radius of several miles. The disciples of the Xan family were stunned as they saw the Tiger King's eye was pierced by an arrow and blood dripped out. The Tiger King's defense was strong, but the eye was still its weakest part. Under the roar, the Tiger King turned to look for the culprit that shot the arrow, allowing Xan Fei to escape. However, looking around the forest, the culprit was nowhere to be seen. That was close. Zhao Feng hid behind a branch of a towering ancient tree. He was only 100 meters away from the Tiger King and he broke out in a cold sweat. While the Tiger King was roaring, the disciples of the Xan family immediately ran away. However, the Tiger King, who had lost its target, wouldn't let them go and attacked again. Ah! Along with a scream, a disciple of the 2nd rank of the Xan family was torn to pieces by the Tiger King's claw. This scene caused the nearby Zhao Feng's heart to go cold. The disciples of the Xan family were in danger again, and it was possible that they would all be killed. Shush! Following the sound of the bowstring, another arrow pierced through the air towards the other eye of the Tiger King. Brr! The Tiger King roared and closed his eye. The arrow had barely pierced through his tiger skin. Sigh. Zhao Feng, who was hiding in the dark, shook his head. It wasn't that his archery wasn't good enough, but that the Tiger King was already on guard. The same plan wouldn't work again. Breaking wind blade. Taking advantage of this opportunity, Xan Fei launched another fierce attack, slashing at the green-headed tiger's forehead, adding to the previous injury. In an instant, a 2-inch deep wound appeared on the forehead of the green-headed Tiger King. This is my chance. Zhao Feng's eyes lit up. He pulled back the bowstring and continued to attack. Every arrow he fired was accurate, hitting the wound on the forehead of the Tiger King. With every arrow, the injury on the Tiger King's forehead would be further aggravated. As time passed, the Tiger King's attacks became weaker. One was the accumulation of injuries, the other was the damage from the poisoned arrows, which went deep into the head, including the one that had pierced the eye. At this moment, seeing that the Tiger King was at the end of his rope, he turned around and ran into the depths of the sky cloud forest. Go! The disciples of the Xan family gritted their teeth, wanting to tear the Tiger King into pieces to avenge their comrades. However, although the Tiger King was heavily injured, he was extremely fast. Martial disciples of the 2nd or 3rd rank of the martial path couldn't do anything to him. Only Xan Fei, who had the strength of a martial disciple, could barely catch up. However, he was exhausted and he didn't have much energy left. Ah! This is my chance. Where are you going? Zhao Feng was overjoyed. He used lightly floating fairy and leaped from tree to tree, easily catching up to the Tiger King. In his eyes, the Tiger King represented a fortune of 20 to 30,000 taels of silver. Chapter 12. Who is that person? Looking at the logo on his clothes, he should be a member of the Zhao family. The Xan family members had escaped death, but their hearts were still beating fast. Xan Fei watched Zhao Feng leave and said in a low voice, What a powerful movement technique. He's even faster than me at my peak, and his archery skills never miss. Oomph. He's just taking advantage of us and shooting arrows. Don't let us catch him or else we'll teach him a lesson. A youth of the third rank of the martial path said coldly. The youth's strength was second only to Xan Fei among the five. His words were immediately echoed by the others who said hatefully, "That's right. That kid used us as bait and shot arrows from the dark. How shameless. Xan Gang, that person saved our lives." Xan Fei shook his head. Just at this moment, a few miles away, the green-headed Tiger King let out a mournful cry before it suddenly stopped. The expressions of the Xan family disciples changed at the same time. Without a doubt, the Tiger King was dead. Go! The young man in light armor named Xan Gang let out a stern shout and led several Xan family members in that direction. At the same time, about 3 to 4 miles to the east, whoosh whoosh, Zhao Feng stood on top of a tree, holding his heavy iron bow. He was panting and sweating profusely. Below him, the 4 to 5 meter long Tiger King had several arrows stuck in its forehead. The original wound had expanded to the size of a basin. The mighty Tiger King was now staring with widened eyes and a dark purple color on its forehead. There was no sign of life. Zhao Feng subconsciously touched his quiver and found that it was empty. He let out a sigh of relief. That was close. Fortunately, he practiced lightly floating fairy, which allowed him to catch up to the green-headed Tiger King in terms of speed. Furthermore, his archery skills never missed. Every arrow hit the tiger's vitals and was laced with poison. Zhao Feng leaped down and stared at the huge corpse of the Tiger King. After a brief moment of excitement, he fell into deep thought. Whoosh. His left eye locked onto the few Xan family members who were rushing over 2 miles away. Zhao Feng stood where he was, calm and composed. He did not move to harvest this huge corpse. It wasn't that he didn't want to, but it was a little tricky. The Tiger King's corpse weighed 2,000 to 3,000 kilograms. Ordinary martial disciples would find it difficult to move it. Moreover, the Tiger King's skin was coarse and thick. Ordinary knives and swords would not be able to cut it easily. After a while, the 5 members of the Xan family finally arrived at the scene of the incident. Kid, get out of the way. The corpse of the Tiger King belongs to the Xan family. The youth in light armor, Xan Gang, who was running at the very front, said in an overbearing and arrogant manner. Originally, he was a little worried about Zhao Feng's strength. However, when he saw that Zhao Feng was only a martial disciple of the second rank of the martial path, he felt disdain. Although one of them had died and the strongest, Xan Fei, was exhausted, there were still 4 martial disciples. 2 of them were at the second rank of the martial path, and the other 2 were at the third rank of the martial path. Among them, Xan Gang's strength was the strongest. He had reached the peak of the third rank of the martial path. Zhao Feng stood where he was, his face full of mockery. He did not pay attention to Xan Gang. Among them, the only one he was worried about was Xan Fei. Xan Gang? After all, he saved our lives. Let us discuss how to deal with the Tiger King's corpse. Xan Fei rushed over from behind and spoke slowly. Zhao Feng looked at him with slight admiration and smiled indifferently. That's exactly what I wanted. Such a big Tiger King's corpse, I don't have the tools to cut it and I can't move it. To be able to kill the Tiger King, Xan Fei's contribution could not go unnoticed. The Xan family had restrained the Tiger King, and one of their disciples had died. Therefore, even if he gave up half of the profits, Zhao Feng did not mind. All right, brother Fei. Xan Gang was a little unwilling, but because of Xan Fei's prestige, he could only agree. Next, Zhao Feng and the Xan family discussed the distribution of the Tiger King's corpse. 280, our Xan family will take 80%. Xan Gang said resolutely. 20% is already too easy for that kid. The disciple of the Xan family who was holding a longbow said with disdain. 280? Ah. Zhao Feng suddenly laughed. Kid, what are you laughing at? I want to know how much do you want? Xan Gang said with a face full of disdain. They had the advantage in numbers and they did not put Zhao Feng in their eyes at all. 280, I will take 80%. You guys take 20. Zhao Feng said in an even more domineering manner. Originally, he wanted to split the profits with the Xan family 50-50, but he did not expect them to be so shameless and ungrateful. Kid, you are too arrogant. I'd like to see just how strong you are to be so ungrateful. Xan Gang did not get angry, instead he laughed. With a clang, a silver sword was unsheathed, and a cold light flashed as it moved towards Zhao Feng. Stop! Xan Fei shouted, but it was too late. Phantom Wind Shadow. Xang Gang moved like the wind, and the silver sword in his hand drew a series of sword shadows in the air, sweeping towards Zhao Feng's lower body. Looking at his posture, it seemed that he wanted to cut off both of Zhao Feng's legs. It's a high-rank martial art, Broken Wind Sword. That kid is dead for sure. Xang Gang has already trained the first 6 moves of Broken Wind Sword to the initial stage. The Xian family disciples behind him showed pity on their faces. Insignificant skill. Zhao Feng did not retreat but advanced, and his body was like a dragonfly skimming the water. With a swoosh, he moved in front of Xang Gang. So fast. The Xian family disciples including Xian Fei felt their vision blur. Not good. Xang Gang's Phantom Wind Shadow missed, and saw Zhao Feng approaching him with an extraordinary speed. Raging Wind Shadow. Xang Gang shouted loudly, and the silver sword in his hand appeared in front of him like a raging wave of silver sword shadow. Raging Dragon breaks the sky. The blood in Zhao Feng's body instantly condensed once, and once again exploded on his fist. In that instant he merged the angry dragon fist and the air-pushing art together. The strength of his chi and blood increased by more than 2-fold. So strong blood. Xian Fei, who was behind him, raised his eyebrows. Xian Gang also felt a violent aura like a mountain torrent. His heart felt heavy and it was extremely oppressive. Because he had trained air-pushing breathing formula to the 3rd stage, Zhao Feng's blood was stronger than most people in the 3rd stage of the martial path. At this time he merged angry dragon fists, and his blood instantly exploded, almost exceeding the limits of the 3rd stage of the martial path. Peng peng peng. A shocking collision exploded between Xang Gang and Zhao Feng. Wah! Xang Gang took the first punch and spat out a mouthful of blood. The second punch. Deng lang. The silver sword in his hand flew out. The third punch. Peng! His entire body flew out and fiercely crashed into a large tree. What terrifying strength! What explosive power! The disciples of the Xian family were all stunned. They had never thought that Xang Gang, who was at the peak of the 3rd stage of the martial path, would lose to a disciple of the 2nd stage of the martial path of the Zhao clan in 3 moves. Amazing. Xian Fei, who was not far away, had a flash of surprise in his eyes and he asked, "May I know your name?" Zhao Feng. The youth in front of him let out a breath and calmly withdrew his fist. "Kid, count yourself lucky this time." Xang Gang barely got up from the ground and he said with hatred and unwillingness, "I fought with the Tiger King and I'm exhausted. I'm injured and I can only use 70% of my strength. You won't be so lucky next time." What? Zhao Feng smiled noncommittally. Indeed, Xang Gang had been through a tough battle, and he couldn't use his true strength. But Zhao Feng was confident that even if his opponent was at his peak, he would still be able to win. The only one he was afraid of was Xian Fei. Xian Fei's strength had reached the level of a quasi-martial artist. His full-strength wind-splitting slash could cut down a tree that required 2 people to wrap their arms around it. It could even injure the green-headed Tiger King. Normal martial artists of the 3rd rank of the martial path couldn't even take one of his slashes. Xang Gang. You're not his opponent, and you think you've embarrassed yourself enough? Xian Fei slowly stood up from the ground and shouted angrily. Then a faint battle intent rose from his body and he stared at Zhao Feng. Zhao Feng's heart skipped a beat. Could it be that Xian Fei had recovered some of his strength? Of course, as long as Xian Fei hadn't recovered more than 60% of his strength, Zhao Feng didn't have to worry. After a tough battle, Xian Fei was heavily injured, and it was obvious that he couldn't recover. Your fist technique is almost at its peak and your movement technique is amazing. I'm impressed and I hope to learn a thing or two from you in the future. Xian Fei looked straight at Zhao Feng, praising him and expressing his battle intent. Alright, we'll spar again when we have time. Zhao Feng wasn't afraid. Xian Fei's strength might be on par with the 3rd outer disciple, Zhao Yijin. If Zhao Feng wanted to defeat Zhao Yijin in the future, he had to at least be on par with Xian Fei. After a round of sparring, the 2 sides started to discuss the distribution of the Tiger King's loot. 64, I'll take 6 and you guys take 4. This is the final condition. Zhao Feng said without hesitation. All right. Xian Fei nodded in agreement, and the others didn't dare to object. Even Xian Gang didn't make a sound. At this moment, Zhao Feng's strength had awed them, and Xian Fei even treated him as an opponent. Next, the Xian family disciples took out their tools and started to cut the parts of the Tiger King's body. Zhao Feng nodded in his heart. He was killing 2 birds with 1 stone by giving up 40% of the loot. First, he didn't have the tools to cut and move the Tiger King's body, so he left the trouble to the Xian family disciples. Second, before he had enough strength, Zhao Feng didn't want to attract too much attention and make enemies. Imagine if he killed the beast alone and took all the loot, wouldn't people be jealous? Now he and the Xian family disciples would work together to kill the Tiger King, and then divide the loot. 2 hours later, the Tiger King's body was cut up. Zhao Feng took the most valuable parts that didn't take up too much space, such as tiger teeth, tiger claws, tiger skin, tiger bones, etc. Zhao Feng generously gave the least valuable parts to the Xian family disciples. After calculating, Zhao Feng confirmed that he had taken around 60% of the loot and then left. The Zhao family has such a person. Even the Zhao Linlong from back then was only SOSO. Xian Fei looked at Zhao Feng's back and said emotionally, "Zhao Linlong." Xian Gang's heart skipped a beat, and his face was full of respect. He is one of the 4 geniuses of Sunfeather City. 2 years ago he reached the 4th rank of the martial path and became a true martial artist. How could this kid compare to him? The 4 geniuses were the rising stars of Sunfeather City, and they looked down on thousands of young people. Any one of them was a true martial artist, and they were even stronger than normal martial artists. Not to mention Zhao Linlong, even Brother Fei, who has the strength of a quasi-martial artist, would only need 1 strike to defeat that kid. Chapter 13. Half a day later. Zhao Feng carried 3 big bags as he returned to Sunfeather City. In an animal skin shop in the city. Black-spotted boar parts, tusks, feet. Worth 395 silver. Gold-patterned snake. Worth 420 silver. 5 poison centipede. Worth 210 silver. The shopkeeper and the shop assistant's expressions were normal as they helped Zhao Feng calculate the prices one by one. Metal pecker eagle. Thinking up to here, the shop assistant and shopkeeper's expressions changed slightly. Metal pecker eagles were birds that were close to the level of fierce beasts. They had astonishing speed and defense and were extremely difficult to kill. Even a 4th-rank martial artist would rarely be able to kill one. Therefore, the value of a metal pecker eagle far exceeded other wild beasts of the same strength. Metal pecker eagle. There are 3 of them, and each one is worth 1,100 silver. The shopkeeper pondered for a moment before giving out the price. 1,100 silver? Zhao Feng was slightly shocked. The metal pecker eagle was worth more than he had imagined. Killing one was equivalent to killing several other wild beasts of the same level. Not long later, Zhao Feng had finished calculating all the wild beast materials except for the Tiger King. All in all, it's a total of 5,850 silver. The shopkeeper gave out a price. 5,850 silver. Zhao Feng's heartbeat quickened. One had to know that his monthly allowance was only 20 silver. He had never had more than 100 silver on him before. Moreover, Zhao Feng had not taken out the most valuable Tiger King material yet. How about this? I'll give you a total of 5,900 silver. The shopkeeper had a shrewd expression. Okay. Zhao Feng was too lazy to haggle, so he made the deal. The shopkeeper's efficiency was very high. Not long later, Zhao Feng received 5,900 silver, a portion of which was in bills. Alright, do you accept parts of fierce beast here? After the transaction, Zhao Feng did not immediately leave. Could it be that you have materials from fierce beasts? The shopkeeper's eyes flashed as he glanced at the remaining bag in Zhao Feng's hand. That's right. Zhao Feng was not afraid. He slowly opened the bag and revealed the components of the Tiger King. Suddenly, a faintly discernible murderous aura came from the bag. Tiger King. The shopkeeper's face turned cold as he looked at Zhao Feng in disbelief. The handyman at the side was also shocked. They couldn't believe that a martial disciple at the 2nd level of the martial Dao had the qualifications to kill a fierce beast. One had to know that an ordinary fierce beast could rival a true martial artist. On the continent, there was no lack of rumors of powerful beasts destroying entire cities. We had a total of 6 or 7 people. One of us was injured or killed. It took us a lot of effort to kill it. Zhao Feng's next words made them feel slightly relieved. The shopkeeper thought about it for a moment when he faced the fierce beast materials. His gaze swept past the logo of the Zhao clan on Zhao Feng's clothes, and he finally gave a price. 16,000 silver taels. When the price was announced, the shop assistant next to him gasped. This was the first time he had seen such a high price. The shopkeeper didn't dare to cheat Zhao Feng. He could tell that Zhao Feng was from the Zhao clan from his attire. In Sun Feather City, the Zhao family, Xian family, and Qiu family were the three great clans. Their influence spread over 1,000 miles, and any business couldn't avoid the three great clans. Deal? Zhao Feng's lips curled into a smile. Although he looked calm on the surface, his heart was filled with joy. This trip was really fruitful. Not long later, Zhao Feng left the material shop with 20,000 silver taels. With this much silver, I can buy precious herbs and break through to the third level of the martial path. Zhao Feng's heart was filled with joy. How should I spend this money? Zhao Feng went straight to the weapon shop that he went to a few days ago. Young man, you're here again? The shopkeeper of the weapon store said with a smile. A few days ago, Zhao Feng was very tight on money and had to borrow to buy a heavy metal bow from this place. Zhao Feng put his hand on the table and smiled. Here's 100 silver taels, thank you for your help that day. 100 silver taels? The shopkeeper was slightly shocked. He didn't think that Zhao Feng would be so trustworthy. Before he left, he said that he would pay back double the amount he owed. But now it wasn't just double, it was more than 10 times. I'm impressed that you're trustworthy. The shopkeeper took the silver taels with a smile. Although he was the shopkeeper, he wasn't the owner of the shop. 100 silver taels was half of his income. After paying back the money, Zhao Feng didn't leave immediately, but looked around the shop. The heavy iron bow in my hand is only average and it doesn't have enough power. Zhao Feng decided to choose a more powerful bow. He secretly used his left eye to observe the weapons hanging on the wall. Soon Zhao Feng's gaze landed on a silver bow. This silver longbow had a cold luster to it, giving off a calm and steady aura. How much is this bow? Zhao Feng asked. You have good eyes. This bow is called the Silver Profound Bow, and it is one of the most powerful weapons in this shop. Only true martial artists who are proficient in archery can fully display its power. It's worth 1,800 silver taels. The shopkeeper smiled. He didn't think that Zhao Feng could afford this bow, but he was still very polite. 1,800 silver taels? It's not that expensive, I'll buy it. Zhao Feng said decisively. The material and craftsmanship of the Silver Profound Bow was definitely several times better than the heavy iron bow in his hand. Only true martial artists of the fourth rank of the martial path and above could fully display its power and potential. You really want to buy it? You don't want to default? The shopkeeper was slightly stunned. Zhao Feng pushed a pile of silver taels towards the counter. Hurry up, I'm in a hurry. The shopkeeper was shocked. He didn't think that Zhao Feng would become so rich. He couldn't believe that the other party still owed him some silver taels a few days ago. Yes. The shopkeeper nodded and personally took down the Silver Profound Bow for Zhao Feng and placed it in a beautiful wooden box. Apart from that, he also bought a set of arrows. Each arrow was worth 3 taels and he bought 100 of them in one go. Leaving the weapon shop, Zhao Feng quickened his pace and headed towards the biggest medicine shop in the city. Medicine Pavilion. This is the biggest medicine shop in the city, and the owner behind it is extremely mysterious. They opened this medicine shop in the surrounding 13 countries, and even the 3 big families of Sun Feather City don't dare to provoke them. Just as he arrived at the medicine shop, he heard a cold and slightly familiar male voice. Zhao Feng noticed a man and a woman not far away. The one who spoke was a purple-clothed youth, with long straight eyebrows and a straight figure. His body emitted a sharp aura. Beside him, there was a snow-robed girl who looked extremely obedient. It's actually them, Zhao Feng sighed. This man and woman were Zhao Yijian and Zhao Shui. Brother Feng. Zhao Shui's eyes turned, and when she saw Zhao Feng, she revealed a trace of surprise. Zhao Feng only nodded in response, and walked into the medicine pavilion. Him? He also has the right to enter the medicine pavilion? Any medicine in the medicine pavilion is worth a few years of his salary. Zhao Yijian smiled coldly, and his face was full of disdain. Zhao Shui did not say anything. She naturally knew that with Zhao Feng's family background, it would be hard for him to take out a few hundred taels of silver. In comparison, Zhao Yijian's father and grandfather were both martial artists of the 4th rank of the martial path, and they were in the upper echelons of the family. Zhao Feng ignored the two, and entered the medicine pavilion, and began to look for precious medicine suitable for martial disciples. The 3rd rank of the martial path focuses on training the body and strengthening the blood flow. In this aspect, the blood ginseng is very useful. It can strengthen the blood flow and even help in training inner strength. Zhao Feng thought for a moment and decided on his target. Among the many spiritual ingredients, the blood ginseng was the most useful for martial disciples. There were many years of blood ginseng, and the higher the age, the greater the increase in value. 100-year-old blood ginseng, 500 taels of silver. A 200-year-old blood ginseng, a 300-year-old blood ginseng, 3,000 taels of silver. A 500-year-old blood ginseng, 10,000 taels of silver. Zhao Feng's gaze swept through the prices of the blood ginseng. The older the blood ginseng, the better the medicinal effect. Of course, the limit that a martial disciple could bear was a 500-year-old blood ginseng, and it had to be at the peak of the third rank of the martial path. Brother Jian, if I had a 200-year-old blood ginseng, I might be able to reach the peak of the second rank of the martial path in half a year. Zhao Shui's slightly coquettish voice sounded in his ear. This is not possible, I can only buy you a 100-year-old blood ginseng. Recently, I have been trying to train inner strength and I need the help of precious medicine. Zhao Yijian said indifferently. Although his family was rich, he could not spend without limits. 100 years is fine. Zhao Shui smiled slightly. At this moment, an indifferent voice sounded, "Shopkeeper, give me 2 200-year-old blood ginseng, and 1 300-year-old blood ginseng." This voice attracted many people's attention. It's him. Zhao Shui saw Zhao Feng not far away, and her heart skipped a beat. 300-year-old blood ginseng? Are you bragging? Zhao Yijian sneered disdainfully. He did not believe that an ordinary branch family disciple like Zhao Feng could buy 300-year-old blood ginseng. 2 200-year-old blood ginseng, 1 300-year-old blood ginseng, that's a total of 5,400 taels of silver. The shopkeeper quoted the price. Then, under the gaze of the two, Zhao Feng took out the money, and successfully traded for 3 blood ginseng. This scene made the smile on Zhao Yijian's face freeze. How is this possible? Zhao Shui's delicate eyebrows furrowed, and her eyes glazed over in disbelief. Shopkeeper, give me 3 bottles of high-quality healing pills, 3 bottles of high-quality blood-replenishing pills. Zhao Feng then bought some medicinal pills, all of which were high quality, and spent more than 1,000 taels of silver. After the trade, Zhao Feng only said goodbye to Zhao Shui, and then left the medicine pavilion. When she replied, Zhao Shui's smile was very forced and she did not dare to look at Zhao Feng's eyes. After leaving the medicine pavilion, Zhao Feng did not immediately return to the Zhao clan, but instead went to an inn. First, he sorted out the silver, and there were still around 12,000 taels of silver left. I'll leave this silver for the future. Zhao Feng understood that the path of cultivation required a lot of precious resources. That night he closed his eyes and sat cross-legged. First, he practiced the air-pushing breathing technique and found that after a few days of fighting, his blood and energy were more vigorous, and his cultivation seemed to have improved. In the dimension of his left eye, the faint green light had grown from 2 feet 8 to 2 feet 95. Zhao Feng was sure that he had reached the peak of the second rank, and he was only half a step away from the third rank. Looks like the effects of fighting are not bad, but I wonder how effective the blood ginseng is. Zhao Feng's face was full of anticipation, and he immediately swallowed a 200-year-old blood ginseng. Moments later, Zhao Feng felt a strong heat appear in his abdomen, which made him break out in a cold sweat and scream. What a strong medicinal effect! Zhao Feng did not let his guard down, and he circulated the air-pushing breathing technique to absorb the blood ginseng's medicinal effect, allowing the energy to merge into his blood and energy and cleanse his body. Maybe it was because he had never used such precious medicinal ingredients before, but Zhao Feng felt that the blood ginseng's medicinal effect was terrifying. The next morning. Could it be? Zhao Feng felt that his blood and energy had broken through a bottleneck, and his muscles, bones and other parts of his body gave off a shocking power. Bang! He casually waved his hand, and the wind from his fist whistled as he punched out with more than 700 kilograms of force. The process of breaking through to the third rank of the martial path was easier than Zhao Feng had imagined. Chapter 14. The effect of the blood ginseng is so good. Zhao Feng couldn't believe it. He had thought that even with the help of the 200-year-old blood ginseng, he would need at least 2 to 3 days to reach the third rank of the martial path. Zhao Feng thought that if everyone who used the blood ginseng had such a good effect, then martial artists above the fourth rank of the martial path wouldn't be so valuable. In the final analysis, he could think of 3 reasons. First, he had never used such precious medicine before, so he absorbed the blood ginseng's effect very quickly. Second, the air-pushing breathing technique had reached the third level, which made Zhao Feng's blood stronger than a normal third rank of the martial path when he was only at the second rank of the martial path. Third, after merging with the mysterious eye, Zhao Feng felt that his body was slowly changing, as if he was being transformed. After successfully reaching the third rank of the martial path, Zhao Feng slowly calmed down after a short period of joy. After all, in the Zhao family, breaking through to the third rank of the martial path at his age could only be considered outstanding, but not a true genius. For example, the genius Zhao Yufei, who was also from the branch family, had reached the peak of the third rank of the martial path 2 months ago. She even had the aura of martial path inner strength in her body, which made her a quasi-martial artist. With my current strength, I should be able to fight with people like Xan Fei and Zhao Yijian, but I don't have the confidence to win. Zhao Feng calmly evaluated. After all, people like Xan Fei and Zhao Yijian all practiced high-ranked martial arts, and they were at least at the initial level. They were definitely not half-baked martial artists like Zhao Kuan. In the next 2 days, Zhao Feng consolidated his cultivation in the inn. When he practiced the air-pushing breathing technique, he found that when the blood in his body moved, there was a faint humming sound. Zhao Feng used his left eye and found that there was a faint green and red aura in his body. The air-pushing breathing technique is close to the peak of the third level. My blood is no weaker than the peak of the third rank of the martial path, and can even be compared to quasi-martial artists like Zhao Yufei and Xan Fei. Zhao Feng was overjoyed. Once the air-pushing formula reached the third level of perfection, he would be able to try to comprehend and cultivate inner strength. And to reach this level, an average martial artist at the peak of the third rank of the martial path wouldn't be able to do so. After stabilizing his realm, Zhao Feng left the inn and prepared to return to the Zhao clan. As for the other 2 blood ginsengs, he did not plan to consume them for the time being. Just as Zhao Feng walked out of the inn, the eyes of a beggar in tattered hemp clothes nearby lit up. He turned around and ran away. Uncle Xen, he's out. The beggar walked to a nearby restaurant and asked a youth in light armor in front of him. All right, here's your silver. A hint of coldness appeared at the corner of the youth's mouth. Zhao Feng left the inn and walked a few miles into a remote alley. Suddenly, he heard hurried footsteps behind him. Whoosh whoosh whoosh, 2 or 3 figures leaped onto roofs and vaulted over walls, chasing after him from behind. Who is it? Zhao Feng stopped and quickly turned around. Kid, if you want to leave, then leave behind 10,000 silver. The 3 Xian family disciples surrounded Zhao Feng in a triangle formation. The one who spoke was a youth in light armor. Xian Gang. Zhao Feng's expression turned cold as he recognized the youth in light armor. The 3 Xian family disciples were all at the third rank of the martial path. Xian Gang's cultivation was the highest, at the peak of the third rank. 10,000 silver? With just the 3 of you? Zhao Feng said calmly as he stood with his hands behind his back. He had spent almost 10,000 silver in Sunfeather City, and now he only had 10,000 left. It was obvious that these people had planned this. Kid, don't be arrogant. Last time I was injured and you won by luck. Today the 3 of us will take back what we lost in the Sky Cloud Forest. Xian Gang said with a dark face. That day when we fought against the Tiger King, we lost a disciple of the Xian family. You want to take 60% of the profits? Aren't you afraid of being choked to death? One of the Xian family disciples said with greed and unwillingness in his eyes. Cut the crap. Take him down quickly before there are more problems. The Xian family disciple on the left yelled and kicked out with a powerful gust of wind. In an instant, Xian Gang and the other 2 Xian family disciples attacked Zhao Feng. Hee, a bunch of useless people. Zhao Feng laughed lightly and with a ting, he leapt 6 or 7 meters into the air and landed on the wall of a nearby building. Casually he dodged the frenzied attacks of the 3 people. Don't let him get away. Xian Gang roared and jumped towards Zhao Feng. Run. Zhao Feng's face was full of mockery as he circulated the air-pushing breathing technique and used lightly floating fairy. His body turned into a blur as he flew over the wall. Not good. Xian Gang was shocked as he felt a suffocating pressure coming from his side. Bang! Xian Gang's body was in midair, he barely managed to receive the punch. Then he felt a huge force like a raging dragon charging at him, and his body was instantly sent flying. Wah! Xian Gang spat out a mouthful of blood in midair as his body hit the stone wall and broke a few tiles. This kid's strength has probably reached the prospective martial artist level. I can't even take one hit from him. Xian Gang almost fainted as he quickly reminded his companions, Xian Yu, Xian Chen, be careful. However, before he could warn his companions, another scream came from his side. Ah! Another Xian family disciple was sent flying 5 to 6 meters and his bones were fractured. Run. The last Xian family disciple was scared out of his wits and ran. However, just as he took a few steps, he felt the wind behind him. Bang. He didn't even have time to react before he fainted. In terms of speed, Zhao Feng was faster than a martial disciple of the 3rd rank of the martial path. He was even faster than a martial disciple of the 4th rank of the martial path. I'll let you go this time. If you mess with me again, I won't let you off so easily. Zhao Feng coldly glanced at Xang Gang and leaped away like a feather. What frightening strength and that frightening speed! The youth next to Xang Gang was completely dumbfounded. This Zhao Feng just reached the 3rd rank of the martial path and he already has the strength of a prospective martial artist. Xang Gang took a deep breath as fear lingered in his heart. At this moment, Zhao Feng's strength was definitely on par with Xan Fei's. After sending Xan Gang and the others away, Zhao Feng returned to the Zhao clan's territory. As he entered the outer area of the clan, some familiar Zhao clan disciples looked at Zhao Feng in surprise. When did Zhao Feng reach the 3rd rank of the martial path? The outer disciples were shocked by Zhao Feng's strength. 20 days ago, Zhao Feng was still a martial disciple of the 1st rank of the martial path. Yesterday, I heard that this kid got lucky in the Sky Cloud Forest and killed the Tiger King with the Xian family disciples. He took advantage of the situation and got half of the benefits. Some of the Zhao clan disciples said. A fierce beast is worth 20 to 30,000 taels of silver. This kid must have bought some precious herbs to increase his cultivation by leaps and bounds. What's so great about using external help to increase his cultivation? Usually people like this are weak in battle. Some of the Zhao clan disciples were either envious, disdainful, or disdainful. Zhao Feng's lips curled into a smile. He didn't expect that the news of him killing the Tiger King would spread so quickly. Ignoring these people, Zhao Feng walked forward. After a while, Zhao Feng returned home. The first thing he saw was his mother, Zhao clan disciples, sewing clothes. Dad, Mom, here's 1,000 taels of silver. Zhao Feng walked into the room and placed a stack of bills on the table. Silver? 1,000 taels of silver? Zhao clan disciples' eyes widened as they picked up the bills on the table. Not to mention his father, Zhao Tianyang, also walked over with a face full of shock. 1,000 taels of silver? Where did you get so much money? Zhao Tianyang said in shock. Especially when he found out that his son's cultivation had reached the 3rd rank of the martial path. His eyes flashed with surprise. It's like this? Zhao Feng then told her what he had experienced in the Sky Cloud Forest. After hearing his son's story, Zhao Tianyang and Zhao clan disciples looked at each other. Apart from surprise, there was also doubt in their eyes. After all, Zhao Feng didn't have such a shocking performance in the past. However, as parents who didn't want their children to be outstanding. Returning to the room, Zhao Feng sat cross-legged as he looked around at the broken house and yard, murmuring, "There's still a month left until the family sparring competition. If I become an inner disciple, my parents' status and treatment will also increase." Closing his eyes, Zhao Feng's consciousness merged into his left eye. In the pitch-black space, the light green halo extended to 3 feet. When Zhao Feng was at the 1st rank of the martial path, the light green halo was 1 foot long, and the 2nd rank was 2 feet long. Now that he had reached the 3rd rank, it was 3 feet long. As the halo grew longer, Zhao Feng felt that the power of his left eye had greatly increased. He could now see everything within a 10-mile radius, and his reaction speed and mental energy had also become stronger. Thinking about this, he started to decipher the later parts of Lightly Floating Fairy. After reaching the 3rd rank of the martial path, Zhao Feng's left eye's power had increased, and his deciphering speed had increased. More and more parts of Lightly Floating Fairy were deciphered. 1/3, 1/4, 1/5, his progress was fast. Late at night, when Zhao Feng was completely exhausted, Lightly Floating Fairy was about to be completely deciphered. At this moment, Zhao Feng held his breath as he read the rest of the information. This lightness body technique is actually... Suddenly, his eyes shone with a strange light, which was quickly replaced by joy. Chapter 15. Lightly Floating Fairy, Part 2. Only a supplementary inner strength training method, Air Fairy, can bring out the true power of this technique. You will be able to dominate those below the 7th rank of the martial path, and stand at the peak of those below the 9th rank of the martial path. The following is the content of Air Fairy. The minimum requirement is to be at the peak of the 3rd rank of the martial path, and have inner strength in your body. When the last 10% of the content was deciphered, Zhao Feng's body trembled. He was so excited that he almost shouted out loud. He would never have thought that lightly floating fairy, a movement technique, would come with a set of inner strength training techniques. This was equivalent to raising the level of lightly floating fairy's martial arts to another level. At this point, Zhao Feng was absolutely sure that lightly floating fairy's level was at least above the top tier. Everyone knew that normal martial arts were divided into low, middle, high, and top tier. But this did not mean that top tier was the highest tier. Legend had it that above top tier martial arts, there was an even more powerful holy martial arts. Correspondingly, above the 9th rank of the martial path, there was a higher level called the holy martial arts. The Zhao clan had heard from their elders that only by practicing the holy martial arts could one surpass the 9th rank of the martial path and enter the holy martial arts. Of course, with Zhao Feng's current status as a martial disciple, he would not be able to reach that level. Not to mention him, even the martial artists in Sunfeather City, the elders in the clan, and the higher-ranked martial artists would not be able to reach the holy martial arts. Late at night, Zhao Feng was excited. He had finally deciphered the contents of Air Fairy. At this point, the entirety of lightly floating fairy's content was finally presented. If I can comprehend inner strength now, I will be invincible under the 4th rank of the martial path. Zhao Feng was filled with anticipation as he began to decipher the contents of Air Fairy. Once Air Fairy was initiated, Zhao Feng would be able to cultivate inner strength. Half an hour later, Zhao Feng had only begun to understand some of the contents of Air Fairy. However, it was still difficult to comprehend martial path inner force. In Sunfeather City, there were thousands of martial disciples who were at the peak of the 3rd rank of the martial path. They would never be able to comprehend the inner strength of the martial path, nor would they be able to break through to the 4th rank of the martial path. Even some outstanding members of the clan such as Zhao Yijin, Zhao Qian, and the genius Zhao Yufei had been stuck at this bottleneck for a long time and hadn't succeeded yet. That night, Zhao Feng's attempt ended in failure. Don't be hasty. I have just stepped into the 3rd stage of the martial path. If I can cultivate the air-pushing breathing technique to the 3rd stage, I believe my success rate will greatly increase. Zhao Feng gradually calmed down. The next day he began to cultivate the chi-pushing formula and angry dragon fist. On the 2nd day the air-pushing formula gradually reached perfection. Zhao Feng felt that the strength of his chi and blood had reached a limit. The circulation of his chi and blood had reached a state of perfection. He tried to condense inner strength again, but it still ended in failure. Every time he failed, the chi and blood in his body would weaken. Although Zhao Feng had basically understood the basics of the air-crossing breathing technique, understanding was one thing. There were still many difficulties when it came to actually using it. Zhao Feng didn't give up. Every time he tried he would improve and break through. On the same day, Zhao Feng received a message. Tomorrow at noon, there will be a strong martial artist in the clan who will give a public lecture on the martial arts field. Every outer disciple received this news. Martial arts field, public lecture? Zhao Feng's eyes lit up. This kind of opportunity didn't come by often. Maybe it was because there was still a month until the clan's martial arts meet, but the outer disciples were secretly working hard. Regarding this, Zhao Feng was looking forward to it. He had only been in the Zhao clan for half a year, and this was the first time he had such an opportunity. The next morning, before noon, many Zhao clan disciples had gathered at the martial arts field. The number of people was several times more than usual. Today Zhao Feng saw many outer disciple experts that were rarely seen on normal days. Look, the top 3 outer disciples, Zhao Yufei and Zhao Yijin are here, and the top 5 Zhao Guang are here. The focus of everyone's attention was on the top outer disciples. In the Zhao clan, there were thousands of outer disciples between the ages of 13 to 18. More than half of them were above the 2nd rank of the martial path. Therefore, when Zhao Feng first came he was indeed at the bottom. At this time the ones who were really being watched were the top 10 and top 20 disciples. The one who attracted the most attention was Zhao Yufei. She was only 14 or 15 years old, but she was beautiful and refined. She stood out from the crowd. Not only was she beautiful, but she was also extremely talented. She was ranked in the top 3 outer disciples on par with Zhao Yijin. Look, the top outer disciple, Zhao Yu, is here. Someone cried out in surprise. After that, another uproar arose on the practice grounds. Zhao Feng didn't even need to look for him. The crowd parted to form a path and a determined youth walked out. He was 16 or 17 years old, wore a green robe and had a plain face. He is Zhao Yu. This was the first time Zhao Feng had seen Zhao Yu. He had only heard of him before. Zhao Yu was older than the average disciple. He was 17 years old. After all, once one reached 18 they would be considered an adult and would not be considered a junior. Outside the clan, Zhao Yu trained hard all year round. He rarely came out and it was hard for others to see him. At this time, Zhao Feng's eyes locked onto Zhao Yu. He could feel a steady and heavy aura from him. Zhao Yu's qi and blood were extremely thick. In terms of strength they were on par, but in terms of quantity, Zhao Yu surpassed him. Also, Zhao Feng could clearly feel that Zhao Yu's muscles were filled with explosive power. Because he was older and had trained longer, his body was more developed, and his basic skills were the most solid. In terms of strength he was definitely number one among the top 10 outer disciples. No wonder he was number one among the outer disciples. So strong. Zhao Feng was secretly shocked. He had a feeling that he couldn't find a flaw in Zhao Yu, and that it was hard to break through. The moment Zhao Yu appeared, Zhao Yijin, who was ranked 3rd, and Zhao Guang, who was ranked 5th, all showed their fighting spirit. The top 5 outer disciples were not too far apart in terms of strength. If they challenged him there was still a chance. It was still morning and there was still some time before the public lecture at the training field. The crowd was silent for a moment, then there was a low cry. Zhao Qian is here. Zhao Qian? The top 5 Zhao Qian in the clan? Many of the disciples looked in a certain direction. The newcomer was a short-haired youth with a figure as thin as a cheetah. His expression was grave and indifferent. Zhao Qian? Zhao Feng felt that the name was familiar. Soon he remembered that this person was Zhao Kuan's brother. As expected, a familiar figure appeared behind Zhao Qian. Was Zhao Kuan. Zhao Kuan also saw Zhao Feng. He saw him walk up to his brother and say something in a low voice. Zhao Qian's figure turned, and his cold gaze landed on Zhao Feng. You are that Zhao Feng? Zhao Qian's eyes were cold and emotionless as he walked over. Whoosh! The crowd was shocked. What's going on? Why would Zhao Qian find trouble with a nobody? A nobody? Someone shook his head and said in a mocking tone, Zhao Feng is no longer a nobody. A few days ago he killed the Tiger King in the Sky Cloud Forest. He is quite famous now. Oh, it's him. I heard that he defeated Zhao Qian's brother twice. Zhao Qian must be here to avenge his brother. After a short discussion the crowd quieted down. Many of the clan's disciples had looks of interest in their eyes, and there was even a hint of playfulness in them. Zhao Gan was ranked 5th in the clan, and his reputation was resounding. At this time, even the first-ranked Zhao Yu and the third-ranked Zhao Yijian and Zhao Yufei were attracted by the commotion. Zhao Yijian's eyes flashed with a gloating expression. He knew that Zhao Qian's strength was not much weaker than his. Zhao Shui, who was standing next to Zhao Yijian, sighed. Her eyes flashed with pity, but when she thought about Zhao Feng's performance at the medicine pavilion, her expression turned cold. On the other side, Zhao Yufei's eyes were filled with surprise and interest. She was shocked by Zhao Feng's performance at the archery range. At this point in time, Zhao Feng became one of the focal points of the martial arts field. Kid, you're going to be humiliated in public. Zhao Kuan's eyes were cold as he stared at Zhao Feng and a smile appeared on his face. Seeing that Zhao Gan was getting closer and closer, the atmosphere became tense and stifling. That's me, I guarantee it's true. Zhao Feng smiled and looked at Zhao Qian. Chapter 16. That's me, I guarantee it's true. Zhao Feng didn't back down and faced Zhao Qian. His aura that belonged to the 3rd rank of the martial path gave off a faint pressure. This scene fell into the eyes of some of the clan disciples and they were quite shocked. When did Zhao Feng reach the 3rd rank of the martial path? Zhao Kuan and the others finally noticed the change in Zhao Feng's cultivation. Zhao Shui, who was standing beside Zhao Yijian, opened her mouth in shock. He only used external items to forcefully break through. Such a person can't even withstand a single blow. Zhao Yijian said with disdain. Maybe. Zhao Shui felt relieved. Zhao Feng, you're very courageous. You're stronger than I imagined. No wonder you were able to beat my little brother to a pulp. Zhao Qian had a look of praise on his face as he walked 2 to 3 feet away. Thanks for the compliment. You want to take revenge for your brother? Zhao Feng gave a faint smile. Yes. Zhao Qian said with an indifferent expression, even if my brother isn't skilled and is a piece of trash. These words caused Zhao Kuan, who was not far away, to have an extremely unsightly expression. This brother of his was cold, straightforward, and did not give others any face. Zhao Qian continued, "You're younger than me and you've just reached the third rank of the martial path. I Zhao Qian won't bully you. If you can take 10 moves from me, I'll put an end to this." Okay. Zhao Feng was a little shocked, but he nodded his head. Zhao Gan's elder brother wasn't as domineering as one would imagine. His personality was completely different from his younger brother, Zhao Kuan. The two walked to an empty space on the field and faced each other. It starting, Zhao Gan's aura suddenly became cold and gloomy. His body and limbs bent and squatted in a strange and feminine manner like a coiled poisonous snake. 13 transformations of the viper. Some of the disciples present recognized the origin of the move. As his opponent, Zhao Feng felt an inexplicable chill. Even though they both practiced the 13 transformations of the poisonous snake, Zhao Qian was able to bring him greater pressure and threat. Venomous Snake Second Transformation. Zhao Qian's half-squatting body was like the shadow of a snake, sweeping towards Zhao Feng's head at lightning speed. Zhao Feng only felt a cold gust of wind approaching his head. The opponent's sudden burst of speed and power was 2 times stronger than Zhao Kuan's. Fortunately, his left eye had clearly captured Zhao Qian's movement trajectory, and he quickly blocked it with a punch. Bam! Zhao Feng successfully knocked Zhao Qian away with a single punch. However, he felt that his opponent's body was weak and powerless. Zhao Qian spun on the ground and moved towards his lower body at an astonishing speed. How troublesome! As expected of the top 5 outer disciples of the family. Zhao Feng's expression changed. He felt that his opponent had truly mastered the essence of the 13 transformations of the poisonous snake. He even had a feeling that he wasn't facing a person, but a cunning and ruthless venomous snake. Bam! 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 Zhao Feng took a deep breath and concentrated. His face was solemn as he started sparring with Zhao Qian. In a short period of time, Zhao Feng was forced into a passive state. I will not use my left eye's ability for now and see how much I can use it. Zhao Feng's heart was calm. Once he used his left eye's ability, his reaction speed and perception would increase greatly. Fighting against people of the same rank wouldn't be a challenge anymore. Of course, even if he couldn't use his left eye, Zhao Feng's reaction speed and perception would still be higher than martial disciples of the same rank. In the first few moves, Zhao Feng was forced into a passive state. For the next few moves, he relied on his own consciousness and the experience and intuition of a martial artist to resist Zhao Gan's attacks. He was not at a disadvantage. Bam! Bam! Bung! 2 silhouettes clashed on the martial arts field. The two were fighting at close quarters, their movements were extremely fast and dangerous. Zhao Feng's strength is stronger than I imagined. It's already been 5 moves. Some of the Zhao clan disciples felt that it was inconceivable. His improvement is so fast. Zhao Shui's breathing quickened. Not far away, Zhao Kuan's forehead was also covered in sweat. He thought that with his brother's strength he would be able to take down Zhao Feng in 2 or 3 moves, but he didn't expect the latter to improve so much. Very quickly it was the 6th move. It looked like Zhao Feng and Zhao Kuan were about to reach a draw. Venomous Snake 4th Transformation. Zhao Kuan's movements became more gentle. His 4 limbs were like a sponge, rolling, bouncing and entangling around Zhao Feng. Every time he failed he would quickly change his moves. From the 4th transformation onwards, the power of Zhao Kuan's moves increased by leaps and bounds, becoming more difficult to deal with. The pressure on Zhao Feng increased. He only remembered that Zhao Kuan in the past had only mastered the first 3 transformations of 13 venomous snake transformations. But Zhao Qian had actually mastered the first 7 transformations of venomous snake transformations. With each transformation of 13 venomous snake transformations, the power and difficulty increased. Zhao Feng only felt that his opponent's body seemed to have no bones. He was getting closer and harder to deal with. Swoosh. Zhao Feng instinctively used lightly floating fairy. His speed suddenly increased and he widened the distance between him and Zhao Qian. Close quarters combat was 13 venomous snake transformations forte. He found it hard to use Angry Dragon Fist, a middle-rank martial art. Ting, ting. Zhao Feng's unparalleled speed and body movement allowed him to move around Zhao Kuan. His speed was always slightly faster than the latter and he widened the distance between them. The 8th move, the 9th move, the 10th move. The 2 figures suddenly separated. Some of the spectating disciples felt like they couldn't breathe. You win. Zhao Qian looked deeply at Zhao Feng with a hint of helplessness. He turned around and left, leaving behind a group of shocked and dazed disciples of the Zhao clan. Thanks for letting me win. Zhao Feng was not surprised at all. He didn't use his full strength in this battle. For example, Zhao Feng didn't purposely use his left eye, nor did he use lightly floating fairy and air-pushing breathing technique to their limits. He did this for two reasons. First, before the clan sparring competition, he wanted to preserve some of his trump cards. Second, he wanted to see how strong he was without purposely using his left eye. The result was obvious. Under a situation where their strengths were restricted, Zhao Feng and Zhao Qian fought to a draw. Of course, Zhao Feng couldn't be sure if Zhao Qian was holding back or not. After all, the two only exchanged 10 moves. Since when did he become so strong? Some of the disciples of the Zhao clan who were familiar with Zhao Feng and used to ridicule him were now dumbfounded. Zhao Kuan's mouth was agape dumbstruck. "Brother, even if I can't beat him in 10 moves, you have to help me teach him a lesson." Zhao Kuan chased after him with a face full of unhappiness. "You should just give up. Even without the restriction of moves, I can't do anything to him. Zhao Feng's agility is higher than mine." Zhao Qian shook his head. "How is this possible?" Zhao Kuan's heart shook. He understood his brother's personality. He disliked hypocrisy. He won. Zhao Shui's delicate body was slightly stiff and her expression was complicated. She looked at the figure of the youth in the distance. He seemed to be even more handsome and tall than before. As he strolled leisurely in the courtyard, there was a kind of calm confidence in his chest. This kid actually has some skills. Zhao Yijian's expression was cold, but he only lasted 10 moves from Zhao Qian. Zhao Qian was defeated by me a long time ago. Hearing Zhao Yijian's words, Zhao Shui let out a breath of relief. She didn't know why, but she was afraid that Zhao Feng would become stronger. The stronger he became, the more conflicted she felt. After a round of sparring, the martial arts field returned to normal. It was almost noon. Most people were waiting. This was because there was a powerful warrior coming to the martial arts field to teach. "Coach Chin is here." The crowd suddenly became excited. Zhao Feng followed the voice and saw a tall middle-aged man slowly walking into the martial arts field. "This is Coach Chin." Zhao Feng secretly opened the power of his left eye. He saw that the man's body was surrounded by a powerful aura. Between his breaths, his powerful aura and inner strength were released, giving off an invisible aura. Why did powerful people have a different aura, as if there was an invisible pressure around them? Zhao Feng's left eye could sense blood and inner strength, and he had a slight understanding of this. At this time, every step Coach Chin took, every gaze brought with it an invisible pressure. This was the aura of a true martial artist. Martial disciples under the 4th rank of the martial path wouldn't even have the will to fight. So strong. The Zhao clan disciples in the martial arts field breathed heavily, their faces filled with respect and admiration. The title of martial artist was the dream of many martial disciples in the Greenflower continent. Even Zhao Feng in the past was the same. But now his goal wasn't just limited to this. His goal was to become a martial master above the 7th rank of the martial path, or even the legendary Holy Martial Path. Today I will focus on the basics of the first 3 ranks of the martial path, the usage of martial skills as well as the experience of inner strength. Coach Chen's voice was calm and powerful, as if it had a penetrating power. Even a few hundred meters away it could be heard clearly. Hearing the experience of inner strength, Zhao Yu, Zhao Yijian, Zhao Yufei and the other outer disciples' eyes all lit up. Inner strength? What a coincidence. Zhao Feng cheered in his heart and looked forward to it. Chapter 17. As we all know, there are 9 ranks in the martial path. The first 3 ranks are the power training rank, and they are called martial student. The 4th to 6th ranks are the Qi accumulation rank, and they are called martial artist. The 7th to 9th ranks are the Qi breaking rank. These people are undoubtedly masters of martial arts, and there are only a few of them in the entire Zhao clan. Coach Zhang's voice was low as he briefly explained the 9 ranks of the martial path. This was common knowledge that many of the disciples had heard of. The 9 ranks of the martial path. Power training rank, Qi accumulation rank, Qi breaking rank. There is a huge dividing line between each stage. In Zhao Feng's mind, a clear rank appeared. Power training rank. Mainly used to train one's strength, strengthen one's physique, and build a solid foundation. Qi accumulation rank. When a martial artist's physique is high enough, they can condense inner strength in their body, and the power of their moves will be far beyond that of a normal person or a martial student. Qi breaking stage. Martial artists at this stage have cultivated their inner strength to the perfection stage, allowing them to injure people through the air and take the enemy's head. Their strength has risen to another level. According to the rumors, there were some martial grandmasters, who were at the peak of the 9th rank of the martial path in the Cloud Country, who were known as enemies of 10,000. They could charge through thousands of troops as if they were gods and easily cut off the heads of their enemies. When they reached that rank, their strength would rise to a terrifying level. Normal martial artists and beasts were like ants in their eyes, and they could be killed with a flick of their fingers. First, the first and second ranks of the martial path. Through moves and training, the body's strength and blood will be strengthened. Coach Zhang first talked about the first 2 ranks of the martial path. Many of the disciples present had reached the 3rd rank of the martial path, so they didn't pay too much attention to it. Zhao Feng listened attentively. He had stayed at the 1st rank of the martial path for a long time, and he had more than 100 martial arts manuals in his mind. At this moment he had the same feeling and understanding. He suddenly remembered the flaming metal fist that he had practiced in the beginning. Gradually, the contents of the flaming metal fist, the moves, techniques, and experiences in his mind merged into one, and disappeared from his memory. Zhao Feng was slightly shocked. He didn't understand what was going on, but he knew that his understanding of the flaming metal fist had reached a perfect level. He didn't know that he had just entered a state of enlightenment. This state was something that even some geniuses couldn't dream about. Next will be the moves of the 2nd and 3rd ranks of the martial path, as well as the condensation of vital energy and blood, pushing, martial skills, and grandmaster were all used. As a true martial artist, Coach Zhang was able to unleash the peak of a mid-level martial art with just 1 or 2 moves. Its power was terrifying. Even if Coach Zhang only used the power of the 3rd rank of the martial path and a middle-ranked martial art, he could still defeat the top 10 outer disciples. Martial, and rank and martial skills. Inner martial rank and the can. Rank, master of the rank and rank, master rank. Rank coach or rank martial rank you rank were smiled. Instantly, some of the disciples who were ranked at the top of the martial path looked eager. Those who were in the top 10 of the outer disciples were all at the peak of the 3rd rank of the martial path. As for inner strength, even if I have successfully cultivated it, it is not very possible for me to completely explain its principles. The key lies in your own understanding. All I can do is talk about some techniques and experiences. Coach Zhang's voice became low and slow. As soon as he finished speaking, he took a deep breath, and a shocking aura exploded from his body. At that moment, the disciples of the Zhao clan trembled, and they felt like they couldn't breathe. Zhao Feng felt his breath stop and his body became heavy. It was an indescribable aura, and it was like a force field, enveloping all the martial disciples. What a terrifying power. Is this inner martial strength? With it, you can become a true martial artist. Everyone held their breath, and their faces were filled with awe and expectation. Inner martial strength is a kind of human strength. It is formed from the body's qi and blood. Therefore, a strong qi and blood is the key to condensing inner martial strength. The human body's qi and blood originate from the body's flesh, blood, and bones. This is also why the first 3 ranks of the martial path, the strength training stage, are the foundation of everything. Coach Zhang said as he demonstrated. Rock-breaking palm. Suddenly, he let out a loud roar and a layer of pale yellow aura appeared on his palm. He struck out with his palm. Bang! Before the palm arrived, a heavy and howling gust of wind had already arrived. Ah! Some of the martial disciples who were close to the scene cried out in shock. The power of the palm, with the help of inner martial strength, was like a mountain pressing down on them. Just the aura alone could make a normal martial disciple lose without a fight. Thump. The disciples of the 2nd rank of the martial path lost their balance and fell to the ground. One look and I can tell that your foundation is not strong, and your qi and blood are unstable. Just the wind from one palm can make you look like this. If it was a martial master of the 7th rank or above, the inner martial strength would be able to smash you to pieces from a few meters away. Coach Zhang snorted and shook his head. These outer disciples did not have a strong foundation. While he was explaining and demonstrating inner martial strength, there was a young man in the crowd who was like a statue, not moving at all. When Coach Zhang finished his palm, the young man closed his eyes. Inner martial strength is actually born like this. Zhao Feng completely closed his eyes. In his mind, the outline of a human body appeared again and again, and the qi and blood flowed and spread throughout the body. At a certain moment, the strong qi and blood in the outline of the human body burst out like lava, and a pale yellow qi rushed out along with the palm. So, While Coach Zhang was demonstrating, Zhao Feng used the power of his left eye to the extreme. At that moment, his left eye captured all the changes in Coach Zhang's qi and blood, as well as the production and explosion of inner martial strength. Furthermore, when he closed his eyes again, the scene could be replayed in his mind infinitely as if it was copied. Even Coach Zhang himself would not be able to observe the changes in his qi and inner martial strength to such a precise degree. In the next moment, Coach Zhang demonstrated a few more times, and explained his own experience. Every time Coach Zhang demonstrated, Zhao Feng would use his left eye to the fullest. The other disciples could only listen to knowledge and theories, but Zhao Feng could combine pictures and pictures, and he could even observe it directly. Half an hour later, Coach Zhang's speech came to an end. Regarding inner martial strength, you can't force it. Whether or not you can comprehend it and form it depends on your talent, and your own qi and blood must be strong enough. After Coach Zhang finished speaking and left, he shook his head and sighed. It was obvious that he didn't have much hope for these outer disciples. If his explanation could help one or two of them gain some enlightenment and comprehend inner martial strength, then it would be beyond his expectations. After Coach Zhang left, most of the disciples were confused. After all, inner martial strength was something that couldn't be described, and it depended on one's comprehension. Of course, the disciples who were ranked at the top still had some gains. Zhao Yu as well as Zhao Yijian and Zhao Qian, who were ranked at the top, thought for a while, then frowned, then revealed a joyful expression. Zhao Yufei's elegant eyebrows furrowed slightly. Her pearl-like eyes flickered with a hint of splendor. As for Zhao Feng, he simply closed his eyes and stood there for a long time. In his mind, the image of Coach Zhang's qi and blood changing was replayed again and again, after half a cup of tea's time. Zhao Feng let out a long breath, his eyes filled with excitement and joy as he quickly returned home. Bang! Once he got home, he immediately closed the door and sat cross-legged. I have basically understood the theory and process of how inner martial strength is produced, Zhao Feng murmured to himself, and a smile appeared on his face. He closed his eyes, and in his mind, lightly floating fairy appeared again, which was the introductory content of air-crossing breathing technique. According to the theory, since Zhao Feng had trained air-pushing breathing technique to the maximum, his qi and blood should be stronger than those at the peak of the third rank of the martial path, and he had the foundation to form inner martial strength. That day he first thoroughly comprehended what he had learned that day. At night, Zhao Feng continuously performed air-pushing breathing technique until he was sure that he had reached the maximum of the third rank. It's starting. Zhao Feng took a deep breath, and the qi and blood in his body suddenly surged. His body emitted an indescribable pressure and it slowly condensed. According to the introductory content of air-crossing breathing technique, Zhao Feng's qi and blood in his body condensed, and did not dissipate. Although it was surging and creating pressure, it did not lose a sense of elegance and joy. Compared to air-pushing breathing technique, air-crossing breathing technique had higher requirements for the speed, condensation, and circulation of qi and blood. After a while, the qi and blood in Zhao Feng's body condensed, but did not lose its lightness, and flowed through his body in a mysterious and unpredictable way. Everything went smoothly. But at the last moment, Zhao Feng gradually felt that he did not have enough energy to continue. There was no other reason. Zhao Feng's qi and blood were strong enough, but the amount was not enough. In terms of qi and blood, he could compete with the top outer disciple Zhao Yu, but in terms of quantity he was much weaker. In the end, Zhao Feng had not reached the peak of the third rank of the martial path, and air-crossing breathing technique's method of condensing inner strength was more difficult than other techniques. If I fail, my qi and blood will weaken and it will be hard to overcome next time. Zhao Feng clenched his teeth and took out a 200-year-old blood ginseng and swallowed it. Oh. Zhao Feng took a deep breath, and the medicinal power of the blood ginseng in his body instantly melted, and merged into his qi and blood, forming a strong impact. 1. At the last moment, Zhao Feng could even hear the roar of the qi and blood in his body. Bang! A loud shout, like thunder, shook the room and the window made a bang sound and the wind howled. Then the room fell into darkness and even the oil lamp was blown out by the wind. Under the glow of the moonlight, the young man's face was nervous and he slowly opened his palm. A light green translucent aura gently circulated, and it had a hazy sense of beauty. Chapter 18. I did it. Zhao Feng took a deep breath and resisted the urge to shout. His face was flushed with excitement. At this moment he only needed to circulate his qi and blood to form a ball of inner force in his palm. The light green qi was completely transparent. If one didn't look closely, they wouldn't be able to notice it. This was the first inner force that Zhao Feng had formed. Zhao Feng had never thought that his dream would be so close to him. Once he formed the inner force, there would be no bottleneck to break through to the fourth rank of the martial path. For Zhao Feng, breaking through to the fourth rank was only a matter of time. He only needed to reach the peak of the third rank of the martial path and he would be able to break through to the qi accumulation stage and become a true martial artist. Looking at the outer disciples of the Zhao sect, there isn't a single disciple that has formed inner strength. Even Zhao Yu and Zhao Yijian. When Zhao Feng thought of this, he couldn't suppress his excitement, and he felt a sense of accomplishment. To be able to form the inner force at the third rank of the martial path meant that he was invincible under the true martial realm. I can't waste the power of the 200-year-old blood ginseng. Zhao Feng felt the surging qi and blood ginseng in his body. He immediately gathered his qi and blood to form the inner force. With the remaining power of the blood ginseng, Zhao Feng formed a few more strands of inner force in his body. The so-called inner strength of the martial path was just the eruption of the human body's vital energy and blood, manifesting in a higher and more advanced form. To put it simply, it was refining, extracting the essence of power from the human body's own life. In order to consolidate the inner force, Zhao Feng went into seclusion for a day and a night before he came out. The moment he stepped out of the room, he felt that he could instantly condense a terrifying aura that could oppress other living beings. Zhao Feng's parents could clearly feel this. Feng, you seem to be different. It seems like you've become more spirited and energetic. Zhao clan member narrowed his eyes and smiled. I should have grown a little taller recently. His father, Zhao Tianyang, also felt a slight pressure when facing his son. Their feelings were not wrong. These changes were truly happening to Zhao Feng's body. Ever since he merged with the mysterious eye, Zhao Feng's bloodline began to slowly change. Especially recently, his strength had improved by leaps and bounds. His height, qi, blood and spirit were all increasing. Coupled with the change in mentality and state of mind, even one's temperament would change greatly. If even my parents can sense it, then other martial artists can easily see that I have cultivated inner strength. Zhao Feng fell into deep thought. There was still a month left until the clan martial meet. His goal was to get first place or at least top 3. I need to find a way to hide my inner strength. Zhao Feng returned to his room and sat cross-legged. The moment he closed his eyes, more than 100 martial arts manuals appeared in his mind. These were all brought out from the martial arts library. After a while, a martial arts manual called Concealing Aura Technique appeared in Zhao Feng's mind. Concealing Aura Technique was not a battle-type martial art, it could not even increase one's cultivation. The reason why Zhao Feng chose it was because this martial art was at the peak of the middle level, comparable to Angry Dragon Fists. If one trained Concealing Aura Technique to the small success stage, one could hide one's blood and inner strength, making it hard for others to detect and determine one's cultivation level. And when one trained it to the large success stage, one's control over one's aura would reach the extreme. One could hide one's aura, blend into the environment and use it for tracking and infiltration. At this stage, even if there was a dog with a keen sense of smell, it would not be able to detect one's presence. On that day, Zhao Feng began to train Concealing Aura Technique. Although this martial art was at the peak of the middle level, it was extremely easy for Zhao Feng to train. In just half a day's time, Zhao Feng had trained Concealing Aura Technique to the small success stage and was able to hide and control his inner strength. This way, even a real martial artist would not be able to detect that Zhao Feng had cultivated inner strength. According to the manual, this martial art is quite difficult to train. To reach the small success stage, it would take at least a few months. Zhao Feng was a little surprised. But thinking about it, he had already mastered a high-level martial art like Lightly Floating Fairy, and had even successfully condensed inner strength. Martial arts below high level would naturally not be difficult at all. Once he trained Concealing Aura Technique to the small success stage, Zhao Feng could openly go out. And the next few days were the registration period for the clan martial meet. Feng, the registration for the clan martial meet is starting, don't miss it. His father, Zhao Tianyang, reminded him. Okay, I'll go now. Zhao Feng's voice was full of confidence. Zhao Tianyang nodded his head. Now that you've reached the third rank of the martial path, you should be able to fight your way into the top 100 disciples? Top 100? Zhao Feng laughed and couldn't help but shake his head. His parents had too little confidence in him. He had absolute confidence in the clan martial meet. Even if he couldn't get first place, top 3 shouldn't be a problem. Not long later, Zhao Feng arrived at the registration area for the clan martial meet. The clan martial meet was held once every 3 years, and registration usually started a month in advance. When Zhao Feng arrived at the registration area, there was already a large number of disciples queuing up to register. Have you heard? The rewards for this year's clan martial meet are incomparably generous, far surpassing the previous clan martial meets. A Zhao clan disciple said. Rewards? Tell me about it. Brother, you are indeed an inner disciple. There were a few people at the side who revealed expressions of interest as they looked towards that inner disciple. Their discussion also attracted Zhao Feng's attention. He glanced over and saw that the inner disciple's cultivation had reached the peak of the 3rd rank of the martial path. Looking at the strength of his blood as well as his aura, his strength was at least on par with Zhao Qian. As expected of an inner disciple. Zhao Feng thought in his heart, a random inner disciple actually had such strength. In this year's martial meet, if you can fight your way into the top 50, you can become an inner disciple, and can enter the 2nd floor Xuanwu Pavilion. You can choose a high-ranked martial art and be rewarded with a 300-year-old blood ginseng. If you can fight your way into the top 20, you can choose 2 high-ranked martial arts and be rewarded with 2 300-year-old blood ginseng. The inner disciple paused for a moment as he said this. TSK 300 sets of blood ginseng, the clan is really willing to pay. High-ranked martial arts, normal disciples probably won't be able to learn it in their lifetime. Some of the nearby disciples were slightly shocked. Even when Zhao Feng heard this, he was slightly surprised. 300-year-old blood ginseng was worth 3,000 taels of silver, one would know after going to the medicine pavilion. Of course, what made him even more tempted was to enter the 2nd floor Xuanwu Pavilion and choose martial arts manuals. If I can enter the 2nd floor Xuanwu Pavilion, I can bring out a large number of high-ranked martial arts. Zhao Feng secretly looked forward to it. At this time, the inner disciple continued, if you fight your way into the top 10, you can also choose 2 high-ranked martial arts, but the reward is a 500-year-old blood ginseng. 500-year-old blood ginseng. The nearby disciples were extremely excited, many of them rubbed their fists. One had to know, a 500-year-old blood ginseng was worth 10,000 taels of silver. It is said that the disciples who fight their way into the top 3 can choose a top-ranked martial art and 2 high-ranked martial arts. They will be rewarded with a blood pill. Top-ranked martial art. Blood pill? All the disciples were shocked. Top-ranked martial arts. This was already the peak of ordinary martial arts, and it could be cultivated to the 9th rank of the martial path. As for the blood pill, it was a rare elixir in the world, and it was said that even a martial artist could increase their cultivation after taking it. If Zhao Feng had a blood pill, he would probably be able to reach the 4th rank of the martial path in a few days. However, this elixir was extremely rare and it was worth more than 50,000 taels of silver. Oh right, what's the reward for the 1st place? Someone asked curiously. That's right, according to the rules, the 1st place will receive an extra reward. A few disciples of the Zhao clan said excitedly. The 1st place will definitely receive an extra reward, but I don't know about that. The inner disciple shook his head. The crowd was a little disappointed. The more it was so, the more curious it was. After waiting for a long time, Zhao Feng came to the registration area and received a token. There was a number on the token, 188. Zhao Feng knew that it was his number. In the Zhao family, there were at least a few hundred disciples who participated in the martial arts gathering. According to the rules, the age limit for the inner disciples was 18 years old and there were only 50 spots. Currently there were already 50 inner disciples. In other words, the older inner disciples could be eliminated and replaced by new disciples. Therefore, this was a competition where only the fittest survived. It was cruel and intense. After the registration, Zhao Feng returned to the outer area of the family and started to train harder. Time passed day by day. The time of the martial arts gathering was getting closer and closer. In the first 20 days of the clan martial meet, there was already a rough ranking list among the clan disciples. The 1st place was the top inner disciple, the number 1 genius of the family, Zhao Linlong. Zhao Linlong had already reached the 4th rank of the martial path 2 years ago. In the last martial arts gathering he was ranked 3rd. At that time he wasn't even 15 years old. Now, Zhao Linlong was one of the 4 great geniuses of Sunfeather City. Therefore, in the Zhao clan's ranking he was recognized as number 1. There was no doubt that he would be number 1. Next, Zhao Qi was second, Zhao Han was third, Zhao Qin was fourth. 21 was Zhao Yu. When Zhao Feng saw the ranking, he sucked in a breath of cold air. The top outer disciple, Zhao Yu, wasn't even in the top 20 among the inner disciples. After him, Zhao Yijian and Zhao Yufei were ranked 38 and 40. As for the top outer disciples, Zhao Qian and Zhao Guang, they were ranked 49 and 53 respectively. There were 100 names on the ranking list. Zhao Feng looked down. Finally, in the second last place, 99, Zhao Feng saw his own name. You're tuning in to the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.